All right, what's going on, ladies and gentlemen? You know who it is. So right now behind me, that's the Cornwall Hospital helipad, going where the nurses go to smoke. So as everybody knows, my work is a very hot place to work. 116, 118, 120 degrees all last week. So after doing Monday to Thursday, I wasn't feeling too well Friday before going in for my afternoon shift. So I called in because I had a fever, a little nauseous. And, you know, I just went to go get tested at a local COVID center here in Cornwall because to return back to work, I had to go get tested first. So, you know, it is what it is. But yeah, so that's what I just did. It was a swab up the nose and a swab in the throat. So, not too bad. I was very thankful that it wasn't blood work because, well, the last time we did our blood work at work, last 2 times, I was okay. But the first time I passed out right in front of the nurses, right on the fucking floor from like my standing position, boom, on the ground. Not good with blood. To me, blood is supposed to stay in your body. It is not supposed to come out. It's not supposed to be in a test tube. It's not supposed to be anything like that. So when it was a nose test, fuck. I've had a lot of experience putting stuff up my nose, so that didn't scare me. And the throat swab is fucking nothing. Actually doesn't bug me, like I said. But so yeah, I had to be tested for COVID. Pretty fucking cool. I don't mind. I know I don't have COVID. I know it's probably most likely heat, exhaustion, and mild dehydration, because I say mild because I'm not dehydrated in the sense I'm not drinking enough. I was dehydrated in the sense that I was drinking a lot, but I was burning out. I was using more liquids, losing more liquids than my body had. You know, to be completely honest, I know that we burn more carbon dioxide and lose weight to our breath than we do water weight. I know that. But the amount I was sweating was just insane. Just insane. So what did I do before the COVID test? Well, I did some deep breathing through my nose. And out. I had to wear a mask, which I despise. Mask for a job, but I don't even. I mean, it's not that I don't like my job. I do love my job and I like what I do, and I think it's a damn good job to have. You know, I'm taking care of transformers that have PCB, cancer causing oil chemicals in them, right? So the more work we put out, the more safe Canada is from cancer carcinogens. That being said, it's not always easy to go to work. Whenever my wife's at home and all my kids are at home, it's not always easy going to work with, you know, my baby's only going to be 3, you know, until she turns 4, and then she's only going to be 4 until she turns 5. So it kind of sucks in that sense. And you know, my daughter's only going to be 9 until she turns 10. My 2 boys, you know, are growing up so fast. The oldest turns 15 this month, and you know, he wants to move in with his father because of many reasons. One, his father was never really in his life, so he wants to know his dad, and his dad's trying to change. Every time dad gets a new girlfriend, he tries to show off for that girlfriend. So prior to him getting this girlfriend, he didn't want anything to do with the kids. They weren't going there at all. No contact, not even calls, nothing. And then Austin got mad at us, so called his dad to ask if he could go there for the weekend. He does, and he's mad at us because, you know, we got some to do chores since we let him stay up. You know, we hear him swear from time to time. We don't do anything. We let him stay up late. We let him go wherever he wants. We give him a later curfew than he probably should have, just, you know, because he's having a hard time of it. But at a certain point, it's like, okay, well, we give you enough. We pay for enough, and you know, if you're not going to clean up after yourself, if you're not even going to put the bowl that we allowed you to eat on the couch, if you're not even going to put that in the fucking sink, well, enough's enough, you know. So, but he gets mad at us for that, and now he wants to move out. So it's ultimately up to my wife. I told her, because in my opinion, I said, let's let him go there. If his dad is really on board for it, then, you know, let's see how it plays out. But technically he's only turns 15 this year, and for your kid to choose where he wants to live, you have to be 16. So he really has we don't have to let him. But like I told my wife, it's technically the summertime right now, and I used to say every year whenever we're somewhere, like, why don't you ask your dad if you could stay, you know, a week, a month, a few weeks, you know. more than just a fucking weekend, make up for some lost time. But like, he only has to take them every second weekend, and he hasn't even been doing that consecutive. And I can count on one hand the amount of times that he took them extra. So it's not like he's made up in any way, shape, or form for all that time he's missed out on. But anyway, so that was my opinion. So anyways, all this being said, you know, my wife's at home trying to take care of stuff, and, you know, she's stressed out with the baby and all this, and, you know, the oldest does the clean up after himself, and what he says and does trickles down to the other two kids. So, you know, it could be stressful, and, you know, whoever's pissing her off at the moment might get the grunt of it, and that's not right. But that's basically how this shit works, right? So you know, that's kind of what I mean when I say a job I don't want to be at. It's not that I don't like my job. I like my job. But with 4 children at home, my wife, you know, struggling to fucking work and take care of the kids and keep the baby happy and have sufficient help, it's not easy when I know that. And then I get home and it's like, you know, there's so much of my practice I need to do and devote time to. And with the kids home and not going to school, they're always bored and they always want more and they're never satisfied. You can buy them all the stuff they want, and, you know, fucking the novelty lasts only so long and then it's gone. So I think I see her coming up here now. I hope that's her. Outside smoking outside of the hospital right now in front of a cemetery. I normally hold my breath when we drive by cemeteries, but it's all good in the hood. Anyways, so yeah, I'll let you guys know if I have COVID or not, I guess. Hey, what's going on, y'all? So for everybody who wasn't sure if I'm involved, well, this will be a good episode for y'all. Anyways, I'm not involved. I am currently going to drive by my ex's house and see if he's outside and give him a few punches to the fucking face. No, I don't know. I am driving by his house, and I'll let the fucking emotions that come through me do the fucking rest, I guess. So yesterday I made a video. No, this is the same video, rather, but I did make the video yesterday, recording myself after having my nose and my nose and you can go when you're ready. My nose and my throat swabbed for COVID, and I started recording myself after, and then I said something to the effect of a job I hate, and then I wanted to really specify and state clearly that I do not hate my job. But what I meant by that was, it's hard going somewhere when I know my wife is struggling at home. Even though she's working from home and she loves working from home, she's struggling because of the children, the baby, and my oldest. You know, my kids aren't having a good time of it. They're having a very, oh, fuck, for a girl with white hair, she was tough. Anyways, they're having a hard time of it. My oldest, you know, my second oldest is also going through puberty, but he's in the first stages. And my oldest is had the growth spurt, had the voice change, has the facial hair coming in. So he's like hormone city right now, okay? It's different for everybody. And as far as I can tell, he's done all the physical changes, and right now he's going through the emotional, hormonal, mental state of puberty that happens for both men and women. Women earlier than men, being that he turns 15 this month. So he's going through the ending stages, because, man, he's 6 foot. He's got to be. I mean, he's at least 3 inches taller than me, and I'm 6'9.5" to 6'9", I wish. 5'9.5" to 5'10". I think I'm always over 5'10" when I wear my shoes. But I measured myself before, and, you know, looking down at my 5'9.5". So, you know, I'm probably very close. 5'9 3/4. Oh, like it matters. Like it fucking matters. It doesn't fucking matter. But, like age, your height, and your size, it depends on how you look inside. But what you feel and look inside will display on the outside. Does that mean you can get rid of a fucking shorter limb than the other one? Probably, if you imagine it long enough. But it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to change your hair or your eye color. Now, there are things that say they can do that, and, you know, I've never looked them up, so I can't tell you they don't work. But I'm guessing somewhere down the line there is some spiritual truth to the change in the eye color and all that, and then people have taken those principles, put them on their channel without actually practicing it, like, damn, armchair occultism, and then condensing it to some easy fucking get your eye color, get fucking change something fast fucking scheme, and there's bullshit to it, and or someone trying to make you believe there's bullshit to it, because if you're going to change your eye color, your hair color using spiritual means, it's going to take time, and it's going to take dedication and discipline. So once again, I haven't looked into it, so I don't need to change my eye color. I love the fact that my eyes are both mostly green, but the one eye has more blue and the other has more brown. I love that my eyes are two different fucking colors. I absolutely love it. For a while I thought it was weird and stupid, but my eyes, people from far will say, oh, he's got blue eyes. No, he's got green eyes. No, he's got brown eyes. I fucking love that. And especially when I was doing illegal shit, whenever people went to give a description of my eyes, like, who kicked this shit out of you? He had blue eyes. No, he had green eyes. Then he had brown eyes. Haha, motherfuckers. He was tall. No, he wasn't that tall. He was average. You know, a 5'9.5" shit comes into play because someone who's only 5 foot thinks I'm tall. Someone who's 5'10" is going to say I'm fucking short. Especially a man, they're going to say I'm shorter than I actually am. So, it is what it is. But yeah, so my oldest is having a hard time of it. He just broke up with his girlfriend too, and they seemed like they really liked each other. And, you know, she was a good girl. Fuck, she was a good girl. She seemed like she was a good girl anyways. But none the fucking less, it is what it is. Fuck, I want to pound this fucking asshole in so hard to the fucking ground. I'll tell you what. I'm gonna wait till I drive a little further than the house. My wife just texted me like, don't you fucking do anything fucking stupid, get yourself in trouble. But you know what? I don't give a fuck. I'll fucking tell the cop, yeah, I kicked the shit out of him. Yeah, he's a fucking criminal piece of shit. Yeah, I used to be a criminal piece of shit. Maybe you still think I am. Whatever. But he bought his fucking 14, about to turn 15-year-old kid, fucking vaping fucking thing with the cartridges. And you know, like an idiot, instead of getting him the fucking vape without nicotine, he gives him the fucking vape with nicotine. Yeah, that's how fucking bright this fucking deadbeat fucking stepdad of my fucking 2 stepboys is. He buys his fucking oldest vaping fucking thing and fucking whatever. You know, just so fucking stupid. You know, you really want to make up for lost time? Fucking spend time with your kid. Don't go buy him shit and fucking send him outside to fucking hang out with his friends and then, you know, tell him you can stay there for a week and kick him out the last 2 days because you need time alone because you don't have the one kid you have custody of, so you need a break. Like, go fuck yourself, you piece of shit. Man, he deserves a fucking shit fucking kicking. Like, he's got his ass kicked a few times and he won't fucking admit it. He tells people, oh no, they jumped me, oh, it was unfair, it was all this. And the one time he went to fucking fight me, the fucking pussy pulls out a fucking crowbar. I was taking care of the kids at the time. I had the 2 boys and my 2 girls. My one baby was just a baby too, like not even a year old yet. So when he comes out with a crowbar, I had to think smart and be like, you know, he hits me with this crowbar, I'm out cold, I can't take care of these kids. And then I have to explain to my wife, like, yeah, I let Noel hit me in the face with a crowbar and take the 2 boys. You know, that wasn't something that was going to happen. So I stopped and said, you know, you can fight with a crowbar like a bitch if you want, but 2 things are going to happen. You're going to fucking miss, and I'm going to beat the shit out of you with that crowbar. And I don't want that because I'm going to jail for assault with a weapon, because that's different from just fighting somebody who came to my house to fight me. That'd look like discipline. Either way, I don't give a shit about all that. I don't call the cops after a fucking fight, but this guy's a bitch. He probably would, right? If he wins, he wouldn't call the cops. If he loses, he's definitely going to call the cops. He's a pussy like that. So I said that, or you're going to hit me in the face, you're going to beat the shit out of me, and then you're going to go back to jail. Because at that time, he was on charges for pointing a fucking BB gun or a pellet gun or an airsoft rifle at people down by the fucking water here. He was on charges for things he might have done, CAS, like hitting kids, hitting his kid. He was on charges for hitting his current girlfriend, who was pregnant with his newest kid he doesn't see right now. Yeah, a real fucking winner this fucking loser is. But, you know, I tried to stick up for Austin, and I even tried to give him the benefit of the doubt. I said that. Maybe he has tried. I've always tried to not do this. I know deep inside, like, my 2 step boys, they love me, and we're tight, and I've been there since they were babies. Owen was 2, Austin was 3, Owen was 2, Austin was 4 when I met them, so I've known them since they were small. And I've spent more time with these kids than he has. But nonetheless, this is their biological father. They have ties to him. So even though, up until the last week of June, he hadn't seen them this whole time. And he wasn't even using COVID, you know. Maybe if he was smart, he would say, well, COVID guys, maybe we shouldn't come in contact because I have a new girlfriend and, you know, she's definitely not family with you, so you shouldn't come in contact with her and everybody should come in contact, you know, safely. And that would have been legitimate and, you know, you can actually use that as a excuse. But no, he just stopped talking to them, didn't want to talk with them. And, you know, I'm going out the boat with Grandma this weekend, your grandmother, but you guys can't come because I need a break. And
just stupid shit where Austin was pissed off at him, hated him. But then, whenever Austin was mad at us, he went there, like I said, and then everything was just A-okay, because Dad just blamed everything on him, put on a show. Maybe he meant... Alright, I'm a little more calm now. I'm not quite at home yet, but I'm going to be home soon. But yeah, what I was trying to get at is, I know that if I was to do anything to the boy's father, their biological father, even if they're mad at him, let's say they both hate him right now, which Owen doesn't want to see him ever again because Owen kicked him out. Owen decided to bite down there on one of his brothers because he's got 2 other brothers. One, Tristan, is the one Noel has custody of because the mother of Tristan actually is worse than him, which is saying a lot, right? Like tracks, like, right? Piece of shit, piece of shit. Which, you know, my wife met him whenever they were in high school, so my wife was in a piece of shit. And in high school, he just started smoking pot and whatever else whenever she decided to sleep with him. But, you know, high school girl going through puberty, it's not like she had all the sense and all the smarts that she has now, right? And I'm not dissing my wife. She's fucking smarter than I am, that's for sure. But nonetheless, the point is, you know, he attracted a mate similar to him. Now the girl in that, then he got pregnant with the Tristan boy that he has in his house. That's my 2 stepboys, his brother, and they have a younger brother who's just a baby, probably a year, maybe 2 years old. But I don't think he's 2 years old yet. And that's with the girlfriend, or the ex-girlfriend, that he was on charges for putting up against the wall, choking, throwing on the ground, pushing down a flight of stairs while she was pregnant. Yeah, he's a piece of shit. Now, with my wife, whenever she left him, the kicker was the one day he actually pushed her while she was pregnant for Owen, I think. Or it might have been after, but it was somewhere around either she just gave birth to Owen or she was pregnant for Owen. And she left, and he called her, I'm going to commit suicide, you know, come back, blah, blah, blah. So smartly, she said, yeah, okay, let's start with a fresh slate. I'll come by. I need you to sign some papers. And then, yeah, we'll move back in together. We'll get maybe your mom to help us, whatever. And he said, yeah, no problem. I made a whole episode about this shit, about my wife and all the shit she's been through. But in a nutshell, got her to sign those papers. She went down there and said, yeah, I need to sign his papers. He signed his name on them. And she said, thank you. Go fuck yourself. I'm never going to come near you again. You just sign the way you're fucking right to your kids. I was like, wow, she's smart. I mean, that's devious. That's fucking... And you know what? Like, his mother, doesn't do anything with the 2 boys. You know, the only time she used to call for them was when they were under 12. And she could take them to the Christmas party. Because she wanted all her grandkids at her Christmas party. Because she's she's not high up, but she's some desk jockey at one of the factories here in Cornwall, SCM. And so she wanted to put the whole persona, I'm a great grandmother, here's all my grandkids, they come with me every year. And that's the only time she would see them without Noel, without the fucking father. Other than that, she would never call and do anything. And, you know, we made the mistake a few times saying, maybe we'll call Joan, we need a babysitter. Nobody from my family, my mother, babysat those boys way more times than their actual grandmother, right? So, and my mother's not biological. She buys them more gifts and pays for more stuff and does more things with them than their biological grandparents, okay, combined. I got nothing against his father. He's changing his life. He's doing a great job. He's a great man. He had issues in the past. We all fucking do. But I've always got along with him, and he knows. He doesn't even talk to Noel anymore. Noel actually tried to kill him. When one Christmas, Noel was drinking, and, you know, Dan's like, you know, how you get when you drink, well, please don't drink as much, or if you can, just sip on a few beers. Oh, yeah, don't worry, Dad, I won't get bad. And obviously, he's fucking like 10 beers deep, and probably some shots, probably a bunch of dope. And he says, okay, Noel, you're getting a little rowdy, but before something bad happens, I'm going to have to kiss her girl. And out of nowhere, he just starts choking him. And if it wouldn't have been for, I think it was Kyle or somebody else, one of Noel's brothers, saw him doing that and stopped him. Yeah, he's a fucking winner and a half. This is the same guy that he was on charges that, at the same time I was talking about prior to this there, he was on charges with all those things with the kids, his ex, and the BB gun thing. Well, he drank and drove, was on Xanax, and crashed near Long Sioux because he was leaving, because he got in the fight. I think this was the same day he choked his girlfriend, his pregnant girlfriend at the time, and he left drunk, and that was the reason they fought. She didn't want him to leave. She tried to take the keys, he fucking pushes her against the wall, choking her, just like he did to his father, right? And then he crashes, so that's karma, baby. Crashes the car. When the OPP comes over to see if he's okay, he snaps, tries to take the OPP's gun from him. OPP puts him down because he's a bitch, right? And he's already drunk and on shit, so not like he can fucking do anything really good. Even when he's sober, the guy's a piece of shit, slow fucking ass, fat fuck. But, you know, OPP fucks him down. But you know what? He still tried to take the OPP's gun. OPP actually came here not long after that, because Noel came here for the fight. And then he waited till I wasn't home another time and came and tried threatening my wife and all this other bullshit. So she called the police, because I don't call the police, but she called the police. OPP came instead of the Cornwall police. because they wanted to build a case against him to put his ass away. He actually went to jail for about 8 months and got off. He was on charges for 6 different things, all assault. Assaulting a police officer, assaulting his child, assaulting his ex, assaulting his ex-baby mama, my wife, assaulting, attempt assault with a weapon there with the gun in the face. All assault charges. You think this motherfucker would go for a long time, but no. Like, gets 8 months and gets off. Got a horseshoe up his ass, right? Who knows? But, and nonetheless, the point is, if I was to hurt their father, their biological father, even if they were mad at him, they still would hate me for it. It would ruin my relationship with them. And I know that. But I still want to punch him in the face. Because he deserves it. He deserves it. He needs to know that it's not okay to try to win his kids, try to win the battle against his ex, my wife, by giving his kids things that they're not allowed to have. Being that cool parent that'll buy him. You know, you want to buy him a porno mag, buy him a porno mag. You know, there's no secret there. He's going through puberty. He's not old enough to buy a porno mag. He needs to release and fucking masturbate and shit like that. Whatever. That's a whole different level. But what he's doing is wrong. Buying nicotine, a drug for a child, should not be doing that. You can't fucking do that. It's wrong. It's illegal. And it's bad fucking parenting. Yet, that's what he's doing. He needs to know. And how else is he going to learn a lesson if someone like me doesn't come and dish out his fucking karma for him? You know, I can call the police, but that's not my style. I don't plan on doing that, and there's nothing they can do. They'd have to catch it in the act. He'd have to agree to it, and he's probably not that stupid. He might be, but he's probably not that stupid. He probably won't just say, yeah, I bought nicotine for a minor, because you do that at a corner store. If you get caught at a corner store, if a cop goes in there, or a cop sends a minor in there, you know, like a sting, sends a minor in there to buy a pack of smokes, and that store sells a pack of smokes. As soon as that kid comes out with the smokes, the cop goes in there and charges them. And that's legal. That's dirty. And that's one of the reasons I don't like the police system, because they use criminal activity to catch criminals. That's dirty. You can't use the same thing that you're against. I don't know. It seems wrong. But anyways, so there's no karma's going to be dished out for this. And because the way my wife went about it and not allowing him to go there and live there, which I'm thankful of because I didn't have this information. I didn't know Noel was buying him shit. And you know, it's just a matter of time because he smokes weed. He's on Ritalin. Because he's addicted to cocaine and shit like that, on top of amphetamines, on top of Xanax, and on top of opiates. So he's going to a methadone clinic. Before marijuana was legal here, he had a marijuana license, because when you go to a methadone clinic, if you want one, they'll give you a marijuana license so you can smoke marijuana instead of doing other drugs. So he had that. So it's a matter of time before he says, yeah, here, Austin, have a beer, it's no problem. Here, Austin, have a cigarette, it's no problem. And you already give him the vaping thing. And then in a matter of time, he says, here, Austin, have some fucking weed, it's not a problem. As much as I know, Austin may, probably not, because he's against that stuff, or he used to be, I don't know anymore. But he was very against drugs and drinking. It's a matter of time before he sees his father doing these things, laughing, having a good time, that programming will set in, and then his dad is not the type that won't say it. Like, it's one thing for Austin to go behind his dad's back and steal his prescribed marijuana, or his prescribed opiates, or his prescribed methadone, and, you know, he's locking up, doing everything right, and if Austin goes behind his back and steals, that's on Austin. But it's a whole other thing for him to openly offer it to his son, like a piece of shit dad would. You know, you tell your kids, you give them the scenarios, and you tell them the dangers, and you tell them why they shouldn't do stuff, and you give them the experience that you've been through, but ultimately it's up to them. You can't protect them from everything. You got to prepare them for these things. But giving him weed, giving him nicotine, vape things, giving him alcohol, all that shit, is something Noel would do. Now, I was in the assumption that Noel was changing and wasn't doing any of this, and that's the way Austin made it sound to me. He lied, but that's a whole other fucking ballgame. I'm not very happy with Austin right now either. Trying to lie to go there because Dad will let him do all these cool things. But anyways, yeah. So this is why I'm upset. And if I kick the shit out of him, it's going to ruin our relationship. Because you know what? A dog doesn't have the neocortex like we do. They are only like a subconscious mind, which is why you got to repetitively train a puppy when they're a puppy for 21 days or longer to get their training in their head. You can't teach an old dog new tricks. This is why. Because unless you're going to tell this old dog every day not to do whatever new habit they're starting. Say your dog starts going in your garden every day. Well, every day you need to tell that dog no. No. You need to remind them every single day for at least probably a month or longer because they're an older dog now. So it's like trying to teach an old person something. They're not going to get in their head. Think of it as Alzheimer's. If teaching a dog is like teaching somebody with Alzheimer's to do something. The only difference is the person with Alzheimer's after 30 days probably still wouldn't remember it, whereas this dog would. Where the fuck was I going with that? I don't even know. I had a point to that fucking system, but I don't know where the fuck I was going with that. But anyways, I'll look back on this and I'll fucking figure it out. Oh, yeah, that's where I was going with it. So, but like a dog, if you want to get that lesson in there fast, and I'm not saying to hit your dog, and I'm not saying it's right to hit your dog, but the only way is to get the limbic system and the fucking, because you can say subconscious mind and conscious mind all you want, but eventually when you want to really understand the mind, how something can beat it, you need to use, this is why Birch says to get a sigil in the mind, you need to either use pain, put a Bic lighter to your hand, or pleasure, jerk off and get it in your mind. Most people take the jerk off route. Why? Well, it's because these things is absolute pleasure, absolute pain. These things will force it into your mind faster. You will learn faster. You will get the subconscious mind active. That sigil will go in your mind faster if you Bic lighter your hand while you're staring at it. Because, like I said earlier, your mind takes a picture of everything around it whenever you are in too much fear or too much positive emotion. It takes 2 seconds, mostly fear though. It takes 1 second backwards. So you don't remember the thing that happened when you're overwhelmed with so much fear, right? So something, you fucking break your arm, or whatever caused you to break your arm, if it's overwhelming and you're scared at the time or whatever, that much pain is going to make your mind back loop 1 second, and you're not going to know what actually caused you to break your arm. I got a story about this too. I broke my arm as a kid. As I was climbing up the tree ladder, I grabbed a place where there's 2 carpets. This is where I always pull up my arm. Well, my sister and her friend with 2 carpets there. I pulled myself up, carpets are go and go down. That's what I remember. But before that happened, my sister told me to not put my hands there. Before that happened, I forget. There's 3 other things she told me. I don't remember. None of it. Why? Because as I got into fear coming down, and I was scared, so I don't remember the whole way down. The one memory I have is when I stopped coming down, I hit something on the tree, caught me on the armpit, that thing gave out, then I hit the ground softly. Saved my life, basically, because I might have died because it was high enough. Probably not. I was landing towards my feet until that thing hit me, and then I landed on my back. And they checked me for back injuries because I had to scrape up my side from where the board hit me until it caught me here. But that's what I remember. I don't remember the fall. I remember putting my hands there. I don't remember those things letting go. Your mind stops. 1 second's a long time when you're falling and you're going through pain. Trust me, holy fuck. 1 second of pain is long. Go through fucking withdrawal. Buddy, that shit's hard. But that's the point. So if you take a Bic lighter to your hand while you put that sigil in, it's going to go in there. Arguably better than the jerk-off method. Just jerking off you do all the time. You know that feeling, you're used to it. It may not be even as good as sex. So you need to amp up that fucking pleasure. If you're doing that all the time, jerking off, get sigils in your mind, it's not happening anymore. But that's why. I mean, if you do it repetitively and you jerk off every day for 21 days with the same sigil, well, it might not even be the jerking off putting it in your mind, it might be the affirmation route. But point is, if you hit your dog, and I'm not saying to because this is wrong and I don't believe in it, but if you were to hit your dog and tell them to not do this, it might work better than for 21 to 30 days telling your dog not to do the thing, because it's a shortcut to get something in your mind. So that's what I'm trying to do to Noel. I'm trying to pound his face in while he fucking realizes I'm pounding his face in for what he did. Now, he won't subconsciously remember maybe the reason why. If I scream at him, I'm hitting you in the face right now because of what you did and gave Austin that thing, he's not going to know that. But every time he goes to give Austin nicotine going forward, he's going to stop and not do it because his mind's going to say, no, back loop, this means Corey's going to punch you in the face if you do this. So I'm using a type of magic on him. This is why fighting can stop people from doing things. It's not a good long-term solution, but hell, it's a good short-term solution, because what happens the next time Austin's mad, he walks out of the house, goes for a walk, or he has money, and he decides to go give his dad his money to buy him a fucking thing. You think dad's going to say, no, I don't want to do that? No, he wants Austin to be his friend, his buddy. He wants him to move in there. He wants to try to take the baby bonus we get for Austin. He wants to stop paying the $50 a month he pays for one kid. Yeah, cheap bastard on disability, which is not even disabled. He works under the table fucking 2 months. He'll take 3 months off and he'll get a job for 2 months. He'll take another 3 months off and get a job for 2 months, and then it's Christmas time, so he doesn't work. And then he'll do that every fucking year, just to get extra money every once in a while. So he's able to work, but he's a piece of shit. But anyways, that's just a little bit about how I am polarized with my kids, my stepkids, my family. I can be as depolarized as I want, I can think as evolved as I want, but when someone fucks with my kids, their health, they're at risk, they're plotting against me and my wife or trying to do something stupid, and they don't have the best interests of my children involved, I am fucking polarized. And I'm ready to beat the shit out of this cocksucker, even though I know it's stupid and it won't work. And I'm trying to justify it using some magical fucking sigil fucking fear-based kick the shit out of him so he learns his lesson karma shit, but it really doesn't make sense if I really think about it. But nonetheless, you're gonna make anything almost make sense to you if you want to, and that's what I'm doing right now. But I better get home. Anyways, hope you enjoyed. Have a good day.
Alright, so the moral of the whole fucking story is your teachers, gurus, people on YouTube. I'm not a teacher, I'm not a guru, I'm not pretending to be. So, but I am actively working on depolarization so things like this don't happen, so I don't go and snap on somebody in a lineup, so I don't do road rage. You know, this is a little different. It's your children, and you're always gonna feel protective of your children. Once again, I said it before, I'm not gonna be very much good to my girls. If someone comes to the house and takes my girls, I run at them thinking I gotta save them, they put out their pistol, sidearm, blow my fucking head off, right? Kind of what I'm going through right now, wanting to run to his fucking house and kick the shit out of him. Not necessarily a fight or flight response, but generally, maybe it is a fear response. Maybe it is because I'm fearful he's harming my children. So it's activating that. Point is, Joe buys as much time trying to fight, I'm not gonna lie, but anyone working on depolarization, anyone who says they're a guru, is still gonna have these spots. Even elites that people think rule the world, people that are in governmental positions, whatever the case, also are going to have these areas where you can manipulate, use. A smart magician stays calm and doesn't get in the state, because once you're in the state, you can be manipulated. See, by me wanting to go down there and kick his ass, I give him the power. Either I kick his ass, he calls a call, puts me in jail. He's got the power. He's affected me. I'm pissed off. He's got the power. I can do something stupid and hurt my fucking family because he's affected me, and then he's got the power and can call children's aid, whatever the case is. The point is, by him affecting me, he has the power, and that's what you want to eliminate as much as possible. Now it's gonna be very hard when it comes to your family and people harming your family for you to not do this. And that's the point of this whole video and story. It's a true story. It's what's going on right now with me. So it's another test, of course. Not just for me, for my son, for my wife, for everybody, even fucking for Noel probably. He doesn't even know he's being used in this way to test us, but he is. And this is how it works. So when you get your test, don't just push magic aside, or your transformation, or your self-improvement work, whatever, your self-help work, whatever you're doing. When you have these tests, don't push that shit aside and be like, sorry, I gotta take a break, I gotta deal with this, this is real world stuff, then I'll get back to this. No, this is part of it. This is part of your transformation, and it's important. I'll let you know how I play it out. Hopefully I don't see him before I can, you know, detox from this emotional response I'm having right now. So I guess it all depends on, you know, if Austin stops or not. He's probably gonna come into play, because if he decides not to stop, but then I'm probably gonna hold a grudge, and if I hold a grudge, that's against what I'm supposed to do. I don't hold grudges. I never have really held grudges all that much in my life. I can. When I thought I was mostly Taurus, which I still have a lot of Taurus in my horoscope, using the Vedic one, but not as much as using the tropical one. But Tauruses don't really hold grudges, but when they do get upset at somebody, they fucking charge at them. Meaning, when it takes a lot to get pissed off, but when I get pissed off, I get pissed off, and that's still true. Being that Taurus is in a bunch of different places within my horoscope with different planets, but anyways, point of all this is fucking hot out. That doesn't help either, but I'm trying to give you this experience to teach you. I gave you some information in there. I made some mistakes, like I said, discipline instead of self-defense, and I was talking about the limbic system. I fucking said some wrong shit, 1 second, 2 seconds. The way it works for your mind, when you experience too much fear, it triggers the limbic system. The emotion of fear triggers it, and it tells the reptilian brain to put you in fight or flight, but it has a process where it stops. It goes 1 second backwards, and this time-space continuum, whatever, you know, it's 9:59 right now in 58 seconds. Well, it goes back 9:59, 57 seconds, right? As that 1 second period, so there's 60 milliseconds or whatever it is, it adds up to 1 second. During that time where you experience that one thing that caused all that emotion to happen, well, it goes back one thing, erases that from the memory that you can access, and then it implements a trigger in you, basically. And that's what I was trying to explain about. If I punch him in the face for this reason, this will be a trigger, and it will trigger him to not do this going forward. And that's how I was trying to justify kicking his ass. Still not right, but kind of makes a little sense. But anyways, have a good fuck.
Righty then. So I want to talk about a few things about the last video, and I'll give you a little warning and advisory right here. I'm gonna say shit about beating kids, beating up dogs, beating up people, and nothing that I'm about to say going forward is anything I've done. And if it is, if I have done any of these atrocities, can't say that word, but any of these bad shits I'm about to talk about, if I've done any of these things, I will tell you before I say it, and I will be brutally honest. And you know, you might think different of me if I have done something and you think it's bad. So, you know, you don't want to lose. You don't like talking about things like that, because I'm going to use it all to teach you how that limbic system works in your mind, how the magic works, how putting sigils in your mind, how pain or pleasure actually works. I'm going to go into more depth because I was a little bit vague around the edges, and I know for me anyways, it was really important learning this stuff. More than that, I'm going to talk about hypnosis and triggers and stuff like that, and how this is the way your body works. This is the natural process in your body for adding triggers into you, but you don't know these triggers are there. And you know, I've already made an episode on how this whole COVID shit, by them showing the fear all the time, if someone does get in too much fear, it will do this process, make a trigger in them, and then they could be used as a puppet, basically, and the media might even know about it. So the warning is, I'm going to be talking about abuse to animals, but before I do, I want to say I don't believe in abusing animals. There's different ways, there's better ways to teach your pets using this system. And that's another thing I'm going to go into, is too much positive emotion does do the same thing. A different way, but for the same fucking reasons. Because if every time you experience too much positive emotion, if it didn't do this, then that would make you... People fall in love with drugs because they love getting hot. Doing drugs is the way to feel this positive emotions, the dopamine release. This thing that happens is dopamine being released in your mind, either for negative or positive reasons. But it's so much, when there's too much release of the dopamine, whether it's the negative version or the positive version, that's when this feedback loop backs up 1 second, records everything in your surroundings that happened when that situation happened. This way, for the fear reason, this way, the next time you're experiencing something similar to that, it's going to know a couple seconds before it happens, and you're going to get the fuck out of there. And this way, this is how your body protects you. It also protects you from traumatic events, abuse as a kid, sexual abuse, shit like that. This happens, and then some people don't even know about it. The reason some people do know about it versus other people is if one person only had it one time, then this happens. But after they have it happen over and over and over again, they become desensitized to it. It's no longer something they fear, it's something they come to expect. The human body can adapt to anything, good or bad. Okay, and it's sad that people take advantage of that and do this to people, but it's happened and it's exploited. And that's why I want to talk about it, because it's fucking important. But the drugs are a way to experience that dopamine release without having this be triggered, because you're doing drugs. And it still can, for certain people that think drugs are really bad and there's so much fear, and then they feel so good, and it's like a polarity fucking fear inside of them, but it's more, anyways, it can trigger this. Because I know the first time I got high, I blanked out, I fell in front of everybody. I also told everybody about a story where I went green and passed out in front of people when I got high at school the one time, and that's because we're going out in the open and there's people there I knew that had ties to my sister, ties to my mom, and all that shit, so I was fearful that they would know. And I mean, I can't tell you for sure, but it damn well seems very likely, because my mom got me tested for everything under the fucking sun at the hospital after, and nothing came back bad. So to me, it was that process happening, and when it happened, I fucking fell on my fucking face. And the way the one guy I played a long time ago, I forget the name of him, it's a psychologist, he explains this way better than I do. Well, he says you could be hitting the fucking wall every time you're triggered, and you wouldn't know it, and you'd just be having a headache. And you go to the doctor, ask them why you get these headaches, and they run every test, and they wouldn't be able to find anything. But meanwhile, every time someone says the color orange or spaghetti, or you smell spaghetti or whatever, because the neocortex is what records everything, every time one of these or all these triggers happen, you're running into the wall because you blank right out. It's a trigger and it sends you into the subconscious state where you just don't fucking remember anything. You walk into the fucking wall or into traffic and die or go around shooting people because you're so scared and it's not even you. So that's what I want to get into. Now I'll start off with, once again, I don't believe in hitting animals. It's wrong. There's a better way to go. And I'm going to relate this to kids and our parents. And when I say our parents, my parents are both in their 60s. They both still work. They're not at the age of retirement, but they're damn close. And the difference between the kids right now and then my generation and then like my parents' generation. Now there's a bunch of generations in between all those generations. And there could be a big variance of difference, but I'm going to generalize a little bit just to prove a fucking point. So, when my parents were kids, my dad, more than my mom, because he's a couple years older, or a year older, but he got hit at school by nuns and shit, okay? My mom, that was implemented, but she never got hit by it. This is religious schools. I don't know if the public schools did that. I know my dad changed to a public school, but they might have kiboshed us by a certain point. And parents were slapping kids on the bum for a while too. Now, I may have got slapped on the bum a few times as a child, and this is probably why it was used and why it may have even worked. Is because it mattered to most guys. I'm telling you that right now. Get that in your little, beautiful brains. You guys are the stronger sex. You guys get to pick your mates. You can have 10 guys going at once, and they'd all keep sleeping with you because they might not be getting somewhere else. And they would be okay with that for the longest time. Eventually, some guy will probably give you the ultimatum because he might have more of a woman energy like I would. I'd probably have a problem with that, but nonetheless, you're all beautiful. You all deserve fucking guys that are gonna really treat you like queens. So don't accept anything less than to be treated like a fucking queen. No, not even queen. A fucking goddess. Anyways. So, my parents, they got hit. Or people, they know they got hit. And my parents, they didn't hit me. They weren't abusive parents by any stretch of the imagination. And the times I got smacked on the ass, I'm telling you, but it wasn't enough to give a fear response. Because it was just you ever tap your baby's hand? This is why I said parental advisory on here. And when I say parental advisory, I mean advising for parents who think I'm a bad parent. But I've said, hey, Sienna, no, bad. I gave her 2 little fingers and a light little tap on the hand. And she cries because she is insulted. She didn't believe Daddy would have hit her. Sometimes Daddy didn't believe he hit her, and I feel so fucking bad. I give her a big hug. I'm sorry, which is counterproductive, counterintuitive, but so that's basically what my parents did to me. I don't want anybody to think my parents beat me or anything like that. And maybe it does work, maybe it doesn't. I think when they're babies like that, it does work. The 2 little taps on the hand when they know it's a violent, aggressive thing. They get insulted by it, but I don't know if that would trigger it. But on the opposite side of the spectrum, positive reinforcement works as well, and it probably works better. And I can give you proof of that with Owen, my stepson, because I did a lot of negative reinforcement for when he's bad. And at the beginning of this year, me and my wife had a conversation like that, and I think I recorded an episode about it. You'd have to find the episode and the date for the beginning of this year, but we decided to implement a system like that for positive reinforcement, meaning we have a lot of reasons for our kids not to do bad things because they have a bunch of bad consequences. But we're not really we're expecting them to do good and not giving them positive reinforcement. Not saying, here's some money, here's some snacks, here's some freedoms, whatever. We're just, if you don't do these things, well, you're in trouble, And eventually, like I just said, anybody can adapt to anything. And Owen certainly got in trouble a lot, especially before he was on his pills, to the point where he got adapted to that. And it didn't mean anything to be in trouble anymore, to sit in his fucking room, to not be at recess. It didn't matter anymore to him. He was used to it, which is sad. And at that point, you have no choice but to put in positive reinforcement. Give him a cookie to chase, because then it's something new. I mean, people love change, even though they say they hate it and they try to fight it. But it's still exciting and it's still something to look forward to. Everybody loves positive reinforcement change, when it means like you go from $5 a day to $10 a day, for your chores, or if it's like no money a day to $2 a day, and no one's going to complain about that. So that's the kind of change I'm talking about that nobody hates. The opposite is where change sucks, whenever things are changing for the worse. Nobody wants that. Or the change is unknown. People rather vote in a president that is a piece of shit president that they know and can expect his shitty moves and keep being treated like shit because they got used to it, rather than voting in a new president who promises to do a bunch of things, and then people are saying, no, it's going to be twice as worse, while then they say, no, fuck it, I'll go with the old same guy that's already there. But anyways, for a dog, it's the same fucking thing. Dogs don't have the neocortex like us. This is why we train kids as a baby. This is why at 0 to 7, they're like an animal. They're like a dog. They're recording everything. They're all subconscious mind. But from day to day, they may not remember something. So you tell your baby one day no, and the whole day she remembers that. The next morning, you say, don't do that, Sienna. Remember yesterday? She's like, what's do that? I know Sienna's me, but I don't know what the rest of those fucking weird sounds coming out of your mouth mean. And she goes and does it because she doesn't remember. You know, she can't. And repetitive, being consistent, having patience and discipline to do it every day is the only way to get through to them. You want your kid to learn something? Do the same thing with them every day. Tell them the ABC song every fucking day for 21 days. Tell them the fucking 1 to 10 every day for 21 days. And they will know it. I told you, I put my daughter to bed with that fucking Cocomelon shit, singing the ABCs and the 1 to 10. And she's doing 1 to 10 every fucking day now. She's doing the ABCs every fucking day now. It's remarkable. And this is a kid that some people thought she might have a learning disability. She's not even 4 yet, and she's doing things that other fucking 4-year-olds are barely fucking doing. And that's my baby. I'm proud of her. Shit, man, I got a tear in my eye right now just thinking about how fucking proud I am of her. But anyways, so for a dog, positive reinforcement works better than the negative reinforcement. So the whole heading thing I said, it does work. It's a hell of a way. And for you, magicians out there, witches out there, who are studying and learning the laws of polarity, well, if you're doing a sigil, if you're invoking the banishing side of the moon and not the abundant side of the moon, meaning the waxing's the abundant, the waning's the banishing, Apollo and Diana, well, you might, if you're trying to banish something out of yourself, then maybe using a sigil and using the pain mechanism to get into your brain might be the one you need to do. Because being all happy while you're trying to get rid of something you hate may not work as well. I've had way more success using fear, hate emotion to get rid of addictive, bad habits, not just all just drugs and alcohol and shit like that, which what I have, I don't drink anymore. I don't crave it. And I don't do any of the dope that I've been talking about anymore. And I barely crave it. I do have days, but barely at all. So, point is, use the right polarity for the right thing. If you are using, I love that I quit all my, then you know, it still can work. It's still an emotion and will work. But sometimes, if you're using Saturn, well, if you're using Saturn to banish, well, if he's on the negative side, and you're going to use the happy polarity, the love polarity, the positive polarity to banish something, well, it doesn't really always work. It can. It all depends on how your mind works. But all I'm saying here is if you're having trouble with something, and that's what you've been doing, well, use the opposite polarity. Give it a shot. I'm not telling you to hurt yourself. But find a way that you can inflict some kind of pain or some trauma or some fear into you so much that you can, and I gave you guys proof of this. For those who don't listen to Frederick Xavier, I played the clip where he says, you know, if you're going to be afraid of something, be afraid of success. Fear is an emotion just like anything else, and it can make stuff happen for you. Now, don't be surprised, though, whenever the success or the money you willed into your reality using the fear vibration energy rather than the happy vibrational energy. When you get the money, doesn't come to you in some kind of fearful synchronicity. Meaning you had a scare, you almost died, and you crushed your fucking hand. Luckily your bone's all healed, and you got a fucking ton of money for it. You know, you send it out with fear, it comes in with fear, right? So just be warned of that. So it might be worth putting in your mind or doing the affirmation route if it's not working with the love energy through ritual. And it could be a multitude of things why it's not happening for you, because I've done both and it works. And it's like Frater says, it's not always worth the trouble getting something to come in, because it comes in for some reason. Fear, negativity, the things you don't want manifest faster than the things you do want. Don't know why that is. I got my suspicions, and I'm planning an episode right now about that, and it's a Hindu fucking point of view, and it's really sound, and it's gonna blow your minds, I think. But anyways, so with the dog, you can beat them and get them to learn, but they will mimic that the attitude you have with them. They'll be protective over you and they will listen to you, but they're going to mimic that as well. Meaning when they're around your children, when they're around other people, when they're around other dogs, they're going to be more aggressive because they've only seen aggression. Now, if you give a dog love and you give them positive reinforcement and you get them to do something, and every time they're good and they don't go in that garden, every time they're good and they give you their paw, every time they're good and they pee where they're supposed to outside, and you give them a treat instead of putting their face in the piss and punching them while their face is in the piss and then hurting them, making them bleed and all that. You pieces of shit out there who hate animals. I fucking hate you, by the way. But anyways, if you do that instead, if you give them a treat and something like it, what do dogs like? Fucking dogs love to eat, man. They love fucking food. People food probably more than their own fucking treats, but Jesus, they have so much positive emotion for food. You can say, how the fuck does a treat make them happy? And the only other thing better to a dog is sex. And if your dog has been fucking neutered, depending if you can still get an erection, or if you fucking, if it's a girl, you can sort them up, they can't have sex, well, then the only thing they have left is fucking food. Food and your love. Those are the only two things that'll matter to them. And I think food is probably number one when they're hungry, and your love and affection is number one when they're not hungry. So, you know, give or take. But that works arguably better, and it works better with kids. Now, in my day and age, I'm having trouble. I've always had trouble. The whole reason I manifested the time off before I started working the job I'm working right now, which I haven't even been at a year. I manifested time off. I've manifested 10 grand 3 fucking times during that time off. I've manifested a ton of different money in a ton of different ways, and health and healing and all these things. But this all happened because I didn't want to work anymore. Because I was trying to find a way to not have to work anymore and stay home with my kids because it didn't feel right to me. But, you know, you have to do something. If I manifest a job where I have to stay at home and work from home, I'm still going to have my time to myself like my wife. That's one of her biggest problems is baby wants to be with her when she's right there in the kitchen working, but she can't do both at the same time. So even if you want to work from home to sustain your life that you have, well, you're still going to have to work. That's something that I had to wrap my head around too. It's like, it doesn't matter if I work from home. I'm still going to need to be perfect for my kids. Yeah, I'll be here, so I'll save time in the commute. And, you know, on breaks I can see them and shit like that, but it's not always, grass isn't always greener. So watch that line of thinking, because that fucked me up for a while, and it's something I really had to unprogram and reprogram into me the proper way. And that comes in the hypnosis part. I'll get into that later if I think of it. But positive reinforcement works better than negative reinforcement. And that's what I wanted to talk about more than anything. Now when it comes to your brain, when I started, I talked about the drug effect. How drug is, it releases the dopamine release in your brain, okay? When you do heroin, that is exactly what happens. The heroin is the highest classification of drug here in Canada anyways. It's the worst one you can get caught with, the worst one you can do, I think anyways. Now in the States for some reason, and I don't know for sure because I can only go by what videos say, but most videos I've watched where marijuana is worse than cocaine. So I don't know if heroin is the worst in the States or not. And I know like class 1 being the worst, class 4 being the least worst. I think class 1s were, or class 2 was the ones that make you hallucinate, the ones you can actually have a spiritual experience with. You know, like your fucking, man, I can't think of any names right now. Mushrooms, your psilocybin, but the thing in your mind produces by itself, I can't remember the fucking name of that. DMT, any DMT, the shit you smoke, I smoked it too. I have a plant that's called it, but it's on the same kind. Salvia, I got a salvia, May blue salvia plant in my fucking my garden. I don't know if it's kind of smoke, I'm pretty sure it is. It's pretty cheap at a fucking Harvest, a plant store here in town. Whole Foods kind of plant store, healthy fucking shit place. They got crystals and everything there, so. But all these things, maybe not all the ones, but like peyote, another one, fuck, everybody talks about from fucking South America. But anyways, these ones are like higher than cocaine and marijuana and shit like that, and they're worse. Yet there's been studies done where people have learned how to get over, stop using opiates with little to no withdrawal symptoms using psilocybin and DMT. Yeah, it's illegal, and you know, that's just the beginning of the whole conspiracy that I'm not going to get into, but you know, it's fucked up. But anyways, so heroin, all drugs release dopamine, all drugs give you that positive emotion depending on your programming. When I started doing drugs, I felt worse because I was programmed to hate drugs, yet I felt like I wanted to do drugs so bad, I had to do drugs. I had to try them, I'm so goddamn curious. And then, so there's always this internal conflict within me, which, like I said, that's the thing, that's why I fucking on my face like 2 or 3 fucking times as a kid. Every time I try a new drug, you know, it happens. But anyways, too much positive emotion does the same thing as too much negative emotion. And like I said, too much positive emotion can make you do stupid shit too. Like, you meet a girl and you're so happy and lovey that you can't even tell that she's the type of girl that would cheat on you, the type of girl that's calling you names and you don't care, who doesn't give a shit about you, who is a gold digger, just wants all your fucking money. But you think, no, everybody's the same, we all want to live harmonious lives. Yeah. And this bitch takes you for everything you fucking got. You go get married and you give her, sign her on all your fucking things, and then boom, you got no money. You know what I mean? So positive emotion can fuck you up. So it's a protective mechanism against that as well. So when you start having too much positive emotion, it does the same thing. It gives you a warning. Feedback brings you back a second. When I say feedback loop or shit like that, I'm not always meaning feedback loop, because that was associated with this whole thing. It's the feedback loop is from the neocortex to the limbic, the neocortex to the reptilian, and then the reptilian and the limbic system are also having these feedback loops going back and forth, communicating all simultaneously within seconds, while you are in your conscious mind thinking you know everything. This is doing everything for you. It's amazing. But anyways, so too much positive emotion, something happens, you're super happy, like overwhelmed with happiness, you know. Well, it does the same thing. It takes a picture of your fucking environment to know when this happens. Because if you are feeling like that and you're about to make a really important decision in your life, it could fuck you up this way, this trigger. So boom, you're about to go to a business meeting about a big deal, and there's these sketchy fuckers there that are trying to rip you off, and you're not in the right sound, you're in the right state of mind, and you're gonna like, no, I'm gonna make sure I'm not gonna sign anything. My lawyer's not here, I'm gonna make sure I don't do anything stupid. Yeah, they could take me for everything right now, or I can sign it, but not gonna happen. All of a sudden you get a call and it's the best news you ever heard. This happens. But before it happens, your mind's gonna feedback loop it, fucking, so you miss it, you don't hear it, so that you still go in that meeting after you're out of your little daze. But you go in that meeting and you're still in the right state of mind, rather than going in there all fucking happy, love and lighting, and you say, no, all these guys, I can trust them. This is why this would happen in the positive way, okay? I know it doesn't make much sense. I hope I illustrated the point correctly, but it's kind of sketchy. I'm gonna take a break and see if I can come up with a better fucking correspondent for that, simile, metaphor, whatever you want to call it. And I'll give you a little bit more info after I come back, and maybe I'll get into the other episode I really wanted to make. All right.
Sorry about that. I got kind of busy when I came home, so I didn't really think of any fucking better correspondences. But off the top of my head, you're with a girl, you know, and you're getting bad vibes. Maybe you caught her cheating on you before, and you took her back, and you might think she's doing it again. All right. And then your parents say, well, you're getting married. You say, oh, you're doing good. Your parents have a lot of money, but you've just been working. And then, you know, your dad says, you know what? I'm going to retire 2 more years. So then once after you get married, you know, we're going to fucking let you have the company and run it and have a portion of it. And then this way, you know, you'll be set. You have kids. You can pass it down family generation to generation. But are you sure about your wife? We should sign a fucking, we really should sign a, the contract before saying she won't take you for anything if she decides to divorce you and all the stipulations. I can't fucking remember what that is. Prenuptial agreement. Yeah, no problem, but you're so overwhelmed and happy. So you're in this happy fucking mood or whatever, right? And you're going in there, and then she's like, no, you don't need a prenup, I love you. You know, and then you're like, oh yeah, she's right, we don't need it, you know? Well, that's the kind of emotion that this would save you from, you know? So you're overwhelmed with happiness. This won't allow that to happen. You'll blank out, you won't hear it, and you'll go in there and you'll still get the prenup signed. In this way, because you still have those overwhelming feelings, it's still good, but whenever you reach that peak, it'll blank out, go back, you won't hear everything that happened, and you're back neutral. You're almost neutralized when you go in there, because when you come out of it, you're not still happy. As you hear it again, you'll be happy. There's a trigger in there. It's not necessarily a good thing or a bad thing, but it is how the human body works. These things happen, overwhelmed by one polarity or the next, okay? That's why I made the episode initially, was to tell everybody, watching the TV every fucking day puts you in fight or flight when you become fearful. And that shuts down, it sends cortisol through your body, which is the stress hormone. And the stress hormone tells you to be in fight or flight, just like your breathing. If you can control your breathing, then you control the cortisol. Another reason why I went in depth in breathing. Now, I don't have any degrees. I'm not a scientist. I'm not a fucking doctor, but I do a lot of research, and everything I do is I look up doctors and scientists. And from what I know, you can control your breathing, you can control your cortisol levels, you can control yourself from going to fight or flight, or you can go into the digestive, relaxative state, you know, and you can even put yourself in fight or flight if you're about to do a workout, so that you're fucking rushing out so you can do the workout well. So you don't have to worry about having to go to the bathroom. Ever have to do something, you're getting cramps like you gotta poop? Well, if you control your breathing, you can stop that. And then once you're done, you slow down your breathing, and then you can go back and do your poop. You know what I mean? There's things like that. So that's another scenario. It would be another fucking scenario off the top of my head. I said business meeting already. That was a prenuptial agreement. Well, they tell you not to make big choices whenever you first wake up, right? They tell you when you lose somebody, negative state, you know? Some people say they're in shock. They're kind of in this daze walking around. They're not really registering what happened. Well, this is that. This is that same thing, right? I don't know if I'm gonna be able to do much better than that. I'll be coming out with another video soon, shortly. Maybe you want to buy a house. Let's say you're going to buy a fucking house, and the first house you see, you know, it's fucking great, and it's dirt fucking cheap, and it sends you into this fucking spike of fucking good feelings. Well, if we didn't have that system, you'd go buy that house. But because that system happens, it might take you down a notch, so that when the real estate agent's pushing you to buy it and trying to make sure you don't bring up, yeah, I want an inspection done first, so you realize that the roots are fucking damaging the fucking exterior wall that's made out of concrete, and it's cracking the shit. In the first rainfall you get, you're gonna have 2 feet of water in your basement. You know what I mean? This person's trying to manipulate you, trying to make sure you keep your mind off of that. This thing stops you from spiking too high with too much positive emotion, and then, okay, yeah, no, everything sounds good. I'll call up an inspector, and you know, we'll get it done. Like, yeah, okay, this is done. Once they figure that out, or they're gonna want a hell of a lot cheaper, and there goes my commission. So that's why the positive one comes, because people might be like, well, why would you have this protective mechanism against positivity, positive emotion? Well, that's why. Too much positive emotion can blind you just as much as too much negative emotion can make you scared of being blinded, so that you don't let anybody in. You know what I mean? So anyways, that's the end of this. I hope you enjoyed it. I didn't go fight that fucker yet, but it's still in the back of my mind. So, you know, after I sleep and I wake up tomorrow, I'll probably be okay. So I'm trying not to go out anywhere tonight and see his ass. But yeah, thanks for caring. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for whatever you fucking do. And have a good one. And make sure you take care of yourself, all right? All right, what the fuck is up, my ladies and gents, my magic practitioners, my ceremonialists, and my witches, and my dark motherfuckers, and my Luciferian brothers and sisters, and my satanic, gothic, vampire, new age, Crips and Bloods, and whatever else I got watching you. What's going on, everybody? Spiritual fucks that are the same spiritual fuck as myself. How the fuck is it going? It is a beautiful Saturday, well, afternoon now, I guess. But I like Saturdays, Saturn Day. Saturn rules me more than probably any other planet, and because I don't like organization, I don't like restriction, and therefore Saturn comes into play and like, no, Corey, you gotta like these things. You gotta at least implement them a little bit, so you can appeal me, and then once you do that, I'll give you some shit you want. And that's what he's doing, and I fucking love you, Saturn, for it, so thank you. So, among many things, today I want to talk about Yalbadov.
which is an entity, an archon you can call on, you can do shit with. I haven't done it yet, so I'm just going to give you the info I know. But the main reason I want to do this is because of what I found out. Now, Yaldabaoth is an archon, and the archons are not all archons, because there are a lot of nice archons apparently. Once again, I've never called on archons. I've never done this evocation before, or invocation, either one. Talk to these entities, so I can't tell you firsthand. But I can give you the information I got, which I thought was very, very illuminating, very enlightening, which is that the archons are entities that want to hold humanity back. Now, Yaldabaoth, from the Gnostic story, is the entity that was created. His mother was Sophia. She created him after watching the All God, which isn't, because the Old Testament God is Yaldabaoth. Okay, spoiler alert. But the real God, the All, that created actually us and everything, is the All Mind, is why everything starts in the mind, is because we're in His mind, okay? Yaldabaoth is once again another creation in the All Mind, just as we are. So there's no reason to worship that entity. Even more than that, people that worship that entity are actively against magic and witchcraft. And why is that? If they have the only way, if Jesus came down and did His thing, if, the Old Testament, Judaism, whatever, all these, Judaism doesn't really persecute witches all that much. Now, they use the Old Testament, and the Old Testament it does say that, so they probably do. But depending on the sect of Judaism, there is some Jewish magic that is very powerful shit. I've said this before. And it's because I do Kabbalah that I know this. I've heard Frater say it as well. I've researched. I am subscribed to various Jewish apocryphal sites where I get information via email. And some of the things that they say and do is like, man, that's magic, But to them, it's their religion. But yet it's magic. So, Jewish magic is very powerful. And a lot of people think Jews rule Hollywood, they have the most money, it's why they were, burned and killed in World War II, which is no different than, the way I look at it is, us witches, okay, we talk about the burning times, us witches get burned. But more recent than that, who was burnt? Jewish people, Judaism, they were burned in concentration camps. Why? Because they had all the money. No different than, people burning the witches because they, they can do anything. They're powerful. They have, we bewitched my husband. No, your husband was actively sleeping with her. She loved him, and yet, whenever it came time, he didn't want to fess up in front of his religious buddies, so he blamed it on her that she's a witch, and had her killed. And that motherfucker probably suffered a brutal death. Probably couldn't even live with himself, probably coughed himself. Good for him. But, point is, the last people that were burned, the last people that we were taught are burned. There's other people that were in concentration camps. But, anyways, were the Jewish people. Jewish people have Kabbalah, depending on the Judaism sect. Some of them are very like Christianity, in the sense that they don't believe Jesus came. They believe Jesus was a prophet, but when he comes, it's going to be the end, and magic is of the devil and all that. There are some of those, as far as I can tell, but I don't know firsthand, so take that for what it is. But I do know there's Jewish magic out there that Jews do, and I've seen it in Montreal. I was painting houses in Montreal, and we were in $1 million homes, and like 4 blocks were just purely, they looked like the Amish people, the way they dressed and all that, and how they shunned away from material crap. But what am I doing? I'm supposed to be doing that. I'm supposed to be not watching TV like they do. I'm supposed to be not caring about birthdays and gifts and presents. I'm supposed to be not really going out and buying fancy clothes or working a job just to pay my bills. I'm supposed to be working on my transformation and spirituality and shunning all that bullshit until I get a firm grip, and then I can, do what I want. So, they're doing magic, nonetheless. Whatever you want to say. Anyways, 4 kilometer blocks, like I don't even know how big they were. These were big blocks, okay? And there was like 4 blocks in a row, all connected, that were all the same Jewish people that owned it. Now these are $1 million homes in Montreal. Montreal, down fucking town. and it's all owned by. And now that was all connected. Now after that, there was other people that had houses in between, but there was a lot of Jewish people that lived in that general area. But for 4 fucking blocks, it was all Jewish homes, passed down families, whatever. That's powerful magic to have your family line taken care of. And there's no persecution here in Canada. Nobody gets persecuted. I mean, not much. I mean, in Montreal, you hear people talking about, you know, the BLM movement, Black Lives Matter, right? And they fucking absolutely do. And everybody should be behind the Black Lives Matter movement. Every race should be behind Black Lives Matter movement. And not saying all lives matter, and not trying to put their gender up there and comparing it to what they're going through. You'll have your day in the spotlight if that's what you want. If you want your race to die so you can have your limelight in the spotlight, then, you know, keep thinking about that. But right now the blacks are persecuted and cops are killing them, and it's in the light, and let's get this problem handled first, and then we can move on to all the other genders that have been being persecuted. Let's focus on one at a time, because if we put too much out there all at once, none of it will get handled. You know, it'll just be thrown aside and trivialed and used as a scapegoat. And let's not do that. Let's help the blacks. Let's help Black Lives Matter. Sorry, I don't want to sound racist. Help Black Lives Matter get their fucking justice that they fucking deserve from that fucking, that sick, stupid, fucking racist fucking pigs. Okay? Let's fucking just deal with that one thing at a time. And then we can work on the other genders that are, there's many genders being persecuted. It's not fair to just focus on the one, but at the same time, it's not fair to that one who's been suffering it for a long time. Especially in places like Canada, where Canada, like, our worst racists are like the best racists in the United States, maybe. I don't know. I know our racists aren't as bad as the other races, but nonetheless, there are still sick fucks out there that kill other races, you know? But it shouldn't happen. But anyways, so, but you want to talk about a race being persecuted. The Jewish people have always been persecuted. And, you know, you can say, well, they do that on purpose. You can say that's a fake, that's a fraud. They just do that to make us, you know, think that they are persecuted, yet they rule the world. It's like, well, we don't know. You can say that all you want, and sure, maybe there's proof of that. Or maybe it is what happened. Maybe they suffered all those times, so now they're finally getting taken care of. Maybe it's just the opposite polarity. Everything comes and goes. It waxes and wanes. The Jews are doing good now, but if they don't find a way to keep that, minimize the swing of the pendulum, then it could go the other way. And I think that's what we see. That's why these communities are the way they are. That's why they practice such tight religion and being devout to their God, so that they never go back to those days. Because whether or not those things really happened in the past or not, okay, maybe it is the fucking government, the Illuminati's, the fucking elites making up that story so people, you know, don't ever do that again to the Jews, so they have a safe time and they can manifest and they can run Hollywood and all that. Maybe that is the case. I doubt it, but maybe that's the case. But the Jews today who practice that faith, who are of that faith, think that they were persecuted way back when, and if they're not careful, it could happen again. So, nonetheless, they are no different than the black community who reads about their history and know that their entire life they've been persecuted. Now, if that turned out to be all a fake, does that make that fear any less to someone who doesn't know that that's fake? No. That fear is still real. So, anyways, that's all I wanted to say about that. I'm going to get off the racist topics because I don't like speaking about race, because it's highly polarized and controversial, and I'm not Jewish or black, so I have no right talking about what anybody else has gone through and trying to pretend like I know, because I don't. But all that's to say is the Albadoff, the Bible, the Old Testament God is an entity, is an archon. You can call upon him, but they say the archons don't want us to evolve. They don't want us blind, deaf, and dumb. They don't want us to transform. So, to me, this sounds like a created entity. Now, here's something I'm going to get into that's a little weird. Okay, so armchair occultism. There's a book I really like called Summoning Spirits, and it's definitely got so much information in there, like theory, like how to do ritual, how to make tools, how to make an altar, like diagrams, everything. It's extensive. Okay, it's got the greater ritual, the pentagram. It's got lesser banishing, the other pentagram. It's got middle pillar. It's even got the watchtower, which is something you really need to do. If you really want to call stuff into manifestation, something I don't talk about much because I don't think that's something everybody should do. I talk about the greater ritual of the hexagram because that reduces karma. And I think that's something that people should do if they deserve to have their karma reduced. But to manifest things, putting up watchtower, the opening ritual of the watchtower, and the closing, is something that's really. But I mean, you need so many things to implement that. You need your tablets, your elemental tablets. You need pentagram or pentacle. You need so much. You need consecrated tools for this shit. So if you're not at that level, you can't just go buy consecrated tools. And at the same time as you're starting the initiation, you start doing this shit. So, but this book has got so much info like that in there that it's so useful. It's unbelievable. And the way it begins is talking about how occultists, and you know, I've even said this shit before too. So think of it as you want. You want to call me an armchair, call me an armchair. But you know, I've done armchair occultism, and some things I do speculate on. I speculate from the armchair perspective because I haven't done it yet. Like a lot of evocation, when I talk about entities and stuff, I haven't done a lot of evocation. So the things I speculate on are just that. But it talks about how thought forms and egregores exist, and they don't have a realm to be banished back to. So it's up to the practitioner to banish them. Because if they're left in the astral, because everything comes from the mental realm, then there's the astral realm, and this is where the difference between, you know, like the air and spirit kind of comes from. Not exactly that, because like air is an elemental, but when it comes to Mercury is in the mental, is in the physical, and he's in the astral. This is why one of these things aren't necessarily thought forms, but the God of the Bible can be. Now they call it an archon because they don't want people to just associate it with demon or God, so it's bigger than that. But nonetheless, it's still a created thing. Gnostic story tells you that the Gnostics how does it go? It tells you that the All-Father created these archons, or something created these archons. And then once they were created, Sophia saw him creating everything and wanted to create too. So she created Yaldabaoth, who became the ruler of the realm. Okay, this entity created by another entity that was created not by humans per se, but I think it was humans. I can't stop speculating on that enough. I treat everything as a fucking thought form, because it most likely is. Now, it may not be your thought form, it might not be a human thought form, but it's still a thought form. It's still a form of thought that has electricity that came to light. All entities are that, because they're not in the physical. They're in the fucking astral, and they're in the mental, but they're not in the physical. Actually, they might only be solely in the astral. So, you know, treat them all as if they're fucking all thought forms. They're probably closer to that than anything else. Anyways, give me a moment. I'm going to go in here. But just so you know about the book of Summoning Spirits there, I'm going to play a few clips from that about the lesser banishing, about the greater ritual of the hexagram maybe, and maybe even the watchtower, just so you can know what it's about. So yeah, but I'll do that in a little bit, and then maybe I'll put the PDF on here for you so you can actually pick it up if you want. It's really useful. But yeah, just don't skip ahead to these important things and start doing these important rituals thinking you can just manifest what you want and then fuck yourself up. Alright, so yeah, so I'll be putting on Summoning Spirits, a few parts from it anyways. So, a few very important parts. Like how he talks about why you do the lesser banishing and what the banishings are for, and then he says something really important about how to bring manifestation in. Have you simply grasp one of these concepts and you do it in conjunction with something, that's all you basically need to pull what you want to manifest into the physical realm. So I'll try to start off with that. I recorded it many times. I kept hitting I highlighted it all and hit speak, and then so when it was done speaking it stayed highlighted, so I hit speak again, 4 or 5 fucking times, I don't know. And I might put it on twice, so it'll be like 10 times. So yeah, but that's what's up. So anyways, Yaldabaoth. Why this is important? It's not really. It's just to illustrate, I guess, maybe feeling polarized against Christianity a little more than usual lately. I don't know. But it's to illustrate that if you believe in the Bible and use the Bible, you really got to define you believe in and why you believe in it. Or maybe you do need to do what Thunder Wizard says and just reject the whole fucking thing. I don't know. I was against that view at first. I was with the view that, you know, you can be on the Bible if you use the symbology, totally manifest with the Bible. The Galvadop has some correlations to Saturn and to Saruman, I think is the name, and I'm not familiar with that entity. I know it sounds like the Lord of the Rings, Saruman, but which makes sense. He's going out there trying to kill people and shit, wants to rule the world, trying to take over the world. All these rings to imprison people, gold and shit, you know. So highly symbolic. But Saturn restricts you so you can go past the restriction. He doesn't just want to keep you dumb, deaf, blind, stupid, arrogant, chasing impulsive desire after impulsive desire. You know, that's why the Jews got it right when they're fucking not impulsive chasing. They sacrifice the moment to have a better life. Your people sacrifice their lives so that the future people can have a great fucking life. Because they probably know that you reincarnate. And they keep reincarnating. So like, well, fuck, we'll sacrifice this shit right now that these fucking fucks fuck us over. Then all their bloodlines will have to fucking work 9 to 5 so that's their life, while we live in Montreal and downtown New York in these $1,000,000,000 fucking homes, laughing our asses off because we sacrifice in a shittier time where there was really no billions, there was only kings, and you know, only a few people got to be kings, the rest of us had to be poor. But then the other poor people went against the Jews because they were a little bit better, so they sacrificed that time so now they can have a great fucking time, you know? Smart fucks. That's all I gotta say. I'd fucking do that. Shit, I'd do that right now. If I knew the world's gonna be around in a few more years, I'll sacrifice my lifetime right now so my kids and everybody after my kids get to fucking have a great life. And when I reincarnate in my same family line, I get to have a great life. Well, fuck it, I'd do it too. But that's the kind of sacrifice that if you make, you're gonna fucking get something good in your next reincarnation. I'll tell you that right now. But if you don't sacrifice shit, if you just fucking chase impulsive desires for yourself, and you can say greater good shits of the Bible. Oh no, not the kind I'm talking about. I'm talking about providing my family a great life by sacrificing myself right now, by having to work my 9 to 5 and still do my magic to figure this shit out so that I can either teach them or help save them, program them. Because I can program somebody, I can program myself without knowing the true nature of something. I think I get that physical response from my body that tells me, yeah, this is something you need to know. Then I'll program myself to put that in there, even though I don't understand it yet. Likewise, I do that with my children. Some of it not on purpose, because like my kids, we are all technically a Christian family, right? We're all Roman Catholic. But my 2 oldest boys more and more are telling me that God doesn't exist. And it's like, well, yes and no. I believe that there is a God out there, but that God you might be learning in that Bible at your school is not necessarily the one we should be worshiping. So what you need to do is redefine your version of God, whatever you think it is. If you guys want to think Mother Nature is God, that's great. That's fucking probably more accurate. If you want to think some other entity or deity is God, the planets, whatever. But you guys need to figure out that for yourself. Because of what I listen to and what they're hearing is they're coming to the assumption consciously, not subconsciously, but consciously they're coming to the assumption that there is no God. And that's not really what I want for them to know. I want them to know there is a God, but it's not the fucking God of the Bible. It's bigger than that. The things that the God of the Bible does is what humans do. That is not a fucking God. That is a human being writing down what he thinks God would do. And that's why that God gets jealous. Because no deity gets fucking jealous. None. No deity says, killing is wrong, but go kill these people for me. Because they're on the wrong side. No, that's a human being who's biased to his own fucking side, thinks he knows everything that's right. And the prophets wrote the Bible, obviously. We know that. Or the prophet's best friends wrote the Bible. We know that. We know it's people that wrote the Bible, so obviously they're going to shoot that shit in there. That's why you got to take the symbolism. You got to see what God did and not take the fucking guy's excuse for what God did. And just take it as that. If people are fucking up, bad things are going to happen. Doesn't mean God hates these people more than these people. And who knows? You can say, oh, they killed the God, told us still only those people, but everybody could have died, and he's just writing after the fact that his people were saved. You know, this is why you got to take the Bible with a grain of fucking salt. It's possibly an accurate account of shit that happened, but in the same sense, it's not accurate in the way that guy puts it. Whoever wrote the Bible. And it's many people. It's probably like a fucking million different people fucking wrote the Bible. Or at least 100,000. But anyways, Council of Nicaea and 300 something. Apparently that's not accurate, according to somebody. But that fucking guy, who the fuck knows? I mean, some things he knows a lot about and he seems very knowledgeable. And other things it seems like he just speculates. And then he doesn't give you the full answer to. Sometimes he'll really do a really good job and give you a full-length fucking description of where he got the information from, like really telling you the facts and the sources. And then other times, there's nothing. It's like, I thought the Council of Nicaea was true, but it turns out it's not. And then he doesn't tell you what happened. It's like, you can't just say that. You literally just talked about someone else doing that, and then you do it. There's something so important as that. It's like, okay, if the Council of Nicaea is not where they figure out the Bible books, that's fine. But tell me where you found it, so I can go look it up and check. You can't just give me a blanket statement like that. Give me the facts, give me the info. Or are you still polarized against Christianity? You're trying to say, with Christianity. Both. It's polarized against, but he still has sub-fucking programming telling him that that's bullshit. The Bible was created all together at one time when Jesus was around. Like, what the fuck? Anyways, I don't want to get into that. Ugh. Just, some people leave a bad taste in your mouth. I digress. Anyway, so Yalbadov, fucker, he's somebody you can call on. That was the night I was planning this episode. I was writing down shit for this episode. I was learning about shit for this episode to tell you guys about Yalbadov. And that's when the glass broke. Now, it was, like I said, I shot the thing at my cat. I pretended to shoot the thing at my cat, and then the glass broke. But nonetheless, I was learning about Yalbadov. I was like, oh man, I was having all these breakthroughs in my mind. Like, oh man, this is awesome. Now it all makes sense. That Yalbadov is an archon, which is a thought form programmed for anybody who believes in the Bible. Yalbadov is who they accept in, and he gets them to be polarized against magic, to believe that they shouldn't transform themselves, to believe that they need to just blindly follow, that this God got their best intention, yet he really doesn't give two fucks about them as long as they don't fucking try to change their life in the best way for them possible, you know? And then if there's anybody they hate, then they can actively discriminate against, and they might even send Yalbadov against them. Like, and smash. There goes my thing breaks up there. Oh man. Either I'm on the roll and somebody's trying to give me a hint, or Yalbadov is pissed off I'm coming for him. Shit. No, I don't know. A long time ago I made an episode saying, I can't remember his name, it starts with a J, but it wasn't J, it was a Y, Yalbadov. Was what I meant, is the true way, is the true word I was talking about. But I put this thing together, and it's one of my episodes, but it's Terrence McKenna talking about the Gnostic story, the one he likes the best about Sophia, and he talks about Yalbadov and how he becomes the ruler of the realm. And then after I played one of my boy Occult Lectures, I forget his name, but it's not his real name. Well, he does say his real name. Anyways, it's got a lot of good information on dark, light stuff, all of it together, very depolarized in the true sense of, you know, nothing's dark to him, nothing's light to him, it all just is occult knowledge. And he's going to use it all. It doesn't matter if someone's called a demon, it doesn't scare him. That's just bullshit people use to keep you away from it. Yalbadov's tricks probably, who knows? But, and you know, the word archon is like an archon, archangel. Is that what you're trying to say? You're higher than the archangels? Because the archangels were created for a specific purpose. I want everybody to know that. And I said the angels and the demons aren't that different. I mean that. But I mean in the sense of demons are there, they're created by people, by whoever, who knows. But then the archangels are there to keep them in line. Because if you're not careful, you can have a demon on your side. And there are some demons that are demonized, but they used to be gods. I understand that. Those aren't the same. But then there are demons that were always created and intended to be demons. As far as I can tell right now, I'm still digging deep, because if I can find out that every demon once was a god, then yeah, I can put this whole bitch to rest and just say, you know what, there's no demons. They're all gods. They've been demonized, and if you believe they're a demon, then yeah, they can hurt you and all that. If you don't think they're a demon, then I'm gonna do some fucking science experiments, magic experiments to see how you fuck with these fuckers to not have them fuck with you, basically. But nonetheless, as long as you have protections up and you don't call on them, and you make sure you know who you're evoking, meaning like you ask them to write their name down, and apparently they can only sign their name. Once again, I don't do evocation. I've done a couple things that are similar to evocation, and I know it sounds vague, but I'm not going to say what it is because I don't want people running off and looking it up and doing it. This is how I was testing the waters. I talked about how I banished representations of demons before, and I would signify addictions and other bad habits of mine as the demons, and then banish them. Well, this is where that kind of played into it. It was really, but it was more of a new agey magic book, and I don't really know about it, so I don't want, anyways, doesn't matter. But it's as close as I ever got. I made the whole M-I-C-E-L-A, it says, it's like the Ouija board pointer, and it's got M-I-C-L. It's basically a spell, it's the Archangel Michael, okay? But that's what all the letters are separate. M-I-C-E-L-A, whatever, C-H or C-H-A-E-L, right? So that's me. E-K-L, right? I always looked at what the fuck does that mean? It's like Michael, Michael, Archangel Michael. That's why he's protecting you right there. So the spirit can't come out of that. The triangle is the first plane of manifestation. You can bring stuff in with a triangle. Understand that. You need 3 points to bring something into manifestation. Okay, but that's still just like an entity. It's nothing like you want to bring in money. You can't bring money through this little fucking thing. You know what I mean? You need to get the spirit of money to come to it, and then get that spirit of money to come into the physical for you, but you have to make a deal. And most people don't like making deals, so. No, I'm just kidding, I don't know. But, point is, that thing, the pointer, when you start doing demonic invocation, you gotta have a lot of, it doesn't even have to be demonic invocation, just evocation, period. You can call in the archangels of every Sephiroth. Every Sephiroth on the Tree of Life is how you would call in an archangel. If you have a lamp, you have a candle, the corresponding candle, you get that light to come in, you burn the right incense, and then you get into that Sephiroth fucking frame of mind, and the planet, the archangel, every planet is associated with an archangel as well. Understand that. We're given these things. And so the planets are all encompassing of a great area, a bunch of shit. Okay? They know a bunch of shit, they can do a bunch of shit. They have all these deities, archangels, and everything under them. But then those separate things, like the archangels, are in charge of the fucking demons. They control the fucking demons. That's what they are to me. Doesn't matter, you don't believe in Abrahamic religion crap, you think this is all it is. Well, it doesn't matter. Okay? If you're going to fuck with demonic evocation, you want them archangels around. At least in the beginning. Get to be friends with them, find out they tell you, hey, you don't need the archangels, do away with them. You're smart enough to listen to them, and then you deserve whatever the fuck you get after that. And the reason I'm saying this stuff is because I don't want people to think because I'm studying in the Cliff Austin, things like that, I'm turning into a dark, wrathful, black magician. I'm not. I'm never going to. I want to be well-rounded. I want to know both sides. I want to know the bottom of the Kabbalah tree, which is the tree of death, and I want to know the tree of life. And I want to know this plane. I want to know everything. So I'm not going to limit to myself to just a little bit of knowledge. Because even in the most dark, even in the most evil, even in the most love and light information, you can find a little bit of the opposite polarity information. You can find a little bit of hate in all that love and light shit. Someone could be talking all love and light shit, and then they start talking about their enemies, how they love them, and they wish they would choke on a chicken bone. And it's like, whoa, what the fuck, where'd that come from? Choking on a fucking chicken bone? You crazy bitch. I knew you fucking got some malice in you. You never fucked with your dark side, you dumb cunt. Go fuck with your dark side for a bit. Then you're gonna want them fuckers to choke on a chicken bone while you're stabbing them in the temple. That's more like it. Let it out, bitch. Come on. It'll feel good. She lets it out, and she's got nothing left. She got rid of that charge that they put on her. She was holding in because she wanted to be love and light. She lets it go, and she's good to go now. Simple as that. Let out that shit, and it's gone. It's fucking gone. You don't even have to worry about it anymore. The more you hold on to it, saying, I'm better than this, I'm better than this. Yeah, well, that's what Anakin Skywalker did when his mom died. He said, I'm better than this, I'm better than this, I shouldn't want to do this. But yeah, he just killed all those motherfuckers. And then he does it again and again and again, and boom, he's Darth fucking Vader. His dark side consumed him. He was done. Took him in. Darth Vader. Polarized. All evil. Is that what you want? No. You want to be the Emperor who can do both sides. Well, before he becomes the Emperor. When he's still Constantine or Emperor. I never even put that together. What was his name? Was it Constantine? Palpatine. No, it's Palpatine. Shit. Emperor Pope Constantine. Palpatine. Anyways, he was both. He was both, right? He was polarized. He wasn't polarized. He was depolarized. That's how he could blindly do dark shit behind the Jedi's eyes while being right in their fucking face. Then he goes right to the dark side at the end. He's still controlling everything, making people think the Emperor or... anyways, I can't think of it. Imperial something. But anyways, he is able to do both sides evenly, at least for a while. And then he needs all the clones to back up his plan. His plan was ultimately evil, but he was doing both for the longest time. He was helping Naboo whenever they were being suppressed, and he was letting them be hostage. He orchestrated the whole plan, but technically his plan was to save them. And he grouped the whole fucking thing together. He made it a whole new galaxy order instead of a new world order. It was a whole galaxy order. So, I mean, technically that could be a good thing done the right way, but not the way his ass did it. Anyways, I don't know what I'm talking about Star Wars. I just But don't let your dark side consume you. Don't ever let your dark side consume you. You consume it all. You do what you gotta do. I'm gonna stop it there for now and just realize what I said. Go ahead. Alright, so that was a whole bunch of shit for nothing. Just in my garage right now, chilling, getting shit ready, doing some shit. Sorry about that. I mean to blow smoke in your face. I'm sorry, you probably don't like that. That's how much I care. No. Anyways, so shout out to everybody who watches me. I appreciate it. Wherever you're watching this from. Thank you for tuning in. But yeah, so Yalbadov is the Christian fucking doohickey guy. The Bible fucking demon. And that's really good information to know. If you think you have programming, well, learning this if you think you have Christian programming. All right, so yeah, I got cut off there, but if you want to get rid of Christian program, looking into that might be helpful. Like I said, do the other thing by Frederick Xavier. Anyways, I gotta go for my mom's birthday supper, so I'm gonna leave you with the information from Summoning Spirits book. How to do, I don't know if I recorded the Lesser Banishing, but I definitely did the Lesser Banishing of the Hexagram, and the Watcher, putting out the Watchtowers, and a few other key points. And then I'm going to put on the information about Sophia and Yalbadov with a Y, the Gnostic creation story, which is the God of the Bible, was created from the Archon Sophia. So technically he's a leader of the Archons now. You know, make your judgments up about that, and then I'll give you some other information about it. All right. Bye.
Gnosticism is the general banner under which all of this stuff can be placed. Gnostics believe the central tenet of Gnosticism, and it's hard to put this across because modern Gnostics are such cheerful people, but they've forgotten their real roots. The central perception of Gnosticism, no matter how you slice it, is that we don't belong here, that we are strangers, that something terrible happened, and that accounts for why we're here, that we were destined for a much better deal, and something went terribly, terribly wrong. It takes different forms. Some Gnostic mythologies are fairly straightforward. Some are fairly Baroque. The one that I enjoy is one of the more Baroque ones. The 2nd century Gnostic Bishop Valentinius had this notion that there were 36 archons They are demons of progressively lessening power that interpose themselves between man and a true vision of God. And the last of the archons, the 36th archon, was Sophia, and the only of the archons that was female. There's a tremendous sexual ambivalence in Gnosticism, which we can talk about, which is resolved in different ways. But anyway, the 36th archon is Sophia. She looked upward toward the higher God and saw him bring forth creation, of which she was the final manifestation. And in her heart, an avarice grew, a wish to create in the same manner as the highest and hidden All-Father. And she brought forth, it's described as an abortion. She self-fertilized herself. She did not understand the requisites of creation, and she turned inward into herself, and she brought forth a monstrosity. And this monstrosity is the God of the Old Testament, Yahweh, Jehovah. And when she saw what she had done, that she had brought forth this monstrosity, she flashed through a whole bunch of emotions very quickly. Horror, guilt, rage, fear, agony, like that. And these emotions of the errant Sophia condensed as the material world over which Ildabuath was then made Lord. So the entire material universe is seen as the condensed emotional debris of the horror of the 36th archon upon witnessing her own creation, who is then made God over this universe. Well, even though this is this really bad scene, it still, nevertheless, has this extremely tenuous connection to the highest and hidden All-Father in the form of what is called the scintilla, the spark, the soul spark of divinity. So then the goal of Gnostics, born into this unfortunate world, is to gather the light together, to save the light. The light is defiled by its presence in the world of material existence. And
serpent. And this your boy, Apep Dracon Uraeus 333. Today I'm going to talk about who are the Archons. The Archons, anybody could be an Archon. An Archon could be someone that holds you back, but also the Archons, I work with a lot of them, they have the head of a lion and the body of a snake, of a serpent. So this is the Archons. And there's a group of Archons, it's a Gnostic demons, that's what they put in the Bible, the adversary, but it's an Archon. There's a deity, a group of Archons called the Demiurge. And the Demiurge is a group of deities or gods that do not want you to have the sacred knowledge or to make the transition to the astral planes. They want you to reincarnate over and over and over and over and just be dumb, deaf, and blind. You know what I'm saying? So you have different types of enemies. Like I say, you have physical enemies, spiritual enemies. You know what I'm saying? But you know, this is the god Yalbadoth. He's the leader of Demiurge. Now these entities could help you when it comes to getting material gain, or if you're trying to get rid of somebody, or you're trying to estray somebody. Like if someone is trying to keep you off of your path, you can use them, unless they're using that person to keep you off of your path. But a lot of these Archons, they also have the head of a lion and the body of a snake. You can also find these go all the way back to Nubia, because the Gnostics came out of ancient Kemet. But they also, like I said, the Gnostics were the original Christians. like the Luciferianism has a lot of Gnosticism in ancient Persian stuff. But this is what it is right here. This is the Yaldabaoth. Very, very powerful entity. I worked with him once, but I don't really trust him. But I can work other archons. You know what I'm saying? Because all archons don't try to hold you back. You know what I'm saying? Because you got archons that's working against the government. Just like I said, you have the government that's trying to manipulate the masses. You know what I'm saying? And trying to keep that knowledge away from you. That's your physical enemy. You know what I'm saying? But your biggest enemy is yourself. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not telling you to go around blaming the government or Yaldabaoth, just like how Christians blame Satan on everything. Oh, it was Satan, Satan this, Satan that, Satan this. And yeah, I ain't telling you to go around blaming Yaldabaoth. Yaldabaoth ain't responsible for everything, and the government ain't responsible for everything. You know what I'm saying? Most of the stuff is based on ourselves. You know what I'm saying? Because we got to, most of it are our faults. You can't blame nobody else. Because you allow this. You know what I'm saying? I allowed this. All of us allowed this. We sitting here being, well, not me, but I was once one. We was sitting here being dumb watching freaking BET. Well, I didn't watch BET, actually. I was into hanging around with the gang members and stuff like that. And violence and stuff. But that's probably worse, I don't know. But, like I say, see, this is the archonities and stuff like that. So this is in Bible the Adversary. So I'm just gonna briefly read this while y'all looking at this Yaldabaoth thing. This Yaldabaoth.
The astral plane is where our astral bodies or souls reside. To experience the astral plane fully and directly, the astral senses must be developed or trained, as taught in Chapter 2, sometimes called the formative plane. The astral plane is where ideas begin to take form. Magic performed on this plane has the powerful advantage of being brought one step closer to materialization, as any form built on the astral will eventually appear in some way on the physical plane, since all three planes coexist. A magician who travels astrally, as introduced in Chapter 2, will find he or she can visit any place in the physical world by viewing its astral counterpart. However, due to the fact that these counterparts sometimes change from their astral stages of development to their eventual physical mind, the desire that the called entity will appear, and the desire that it will accomplish the task which the magician will assign. 3. To do. The ritual has to be performed correctly for the desired effect to be achieved. A magician has to do more than go through the motions and 4. To be silent. While few people actually practice this, keeping silent about what type of magical work you are doing is crucial to a successful outcome. By telling everyone that you just did a ritual for so-and-so Rhea-san, you are allowing them to build up unconscious thought forms that could be destructive to your ritual's success. It is best to not only keep quiet about what type of magic you are performing, but also about the fact you are performing magic at all. These 4 principles must be followed closely if you wish to succeed in magic. It is not enough to know that magic is the science of causing change through the use of will. You also have to realize that magic, like every other science, follows some kind of system. If you spend some time meditating on the 4 points just brought up, you will probably find the answer to several questions you had regarding the practice of magic. The banishing rituals given earlier teach one how to raise and control psychic energy, which can be used to empower a thought form. If one were to simply visualize his or her goal, empower it, and release it, it would manifest on the mental plane, astral plane, and eventually the physical plane. This is the basis for all magical workings, regardless of type. As we shall soon see, this simple form of magic can also become destructive to a ritual's success if there are doubts of a ritual's outcome present in a magician's mind. In a magical evocation, your calling of the entity is done on the mental plane. After it hears you, it either comes to the astral or physical planes, depending upon the type of evocation you are performing. The calling of the entity is performed on the mental plane because all magic begins in the mind, is powered by the will, and causes change. Why do evocations work? Why do Points just brought up. You will probably find the answer to several questions you had regarding the practice of magic. The banishing rituals given earlier teach one how to raise and control psychic energy, which can be used to empower a thought form. If one were to simply visualize his or her goal, empower it, and release it, it would manifest on the mental plane, astral plane, and eventually the physical plane. This is the basis for all magical workings, regardless of type. As we shall soon see, this simple form of magic can also become destructive to a ritual's success if there are doubts of a ritual's outcome present in a magician's mind. In a magical evocation, your calling of the entity is done. Points just brought up. You will probably find the answer to several questions you had regarding the practice of magic. The banishing rituals given earlier teach one how to raise and control psychic energy, which can be used to empower a thought form. If one were to simply visualize his or her goal, empower it, and release it, it would manifest on the mental plane, astral plane, and eventually the physical plane. This is the basis for all magical workings, regardless of type. As we shall soon see, this simple form of magic can also become destructive to a ritual's success if there are doubts of a ritual's outcome present in a magician's mind. In a magical evocation, your calling of the entity is done on the mental plane. After it hears you, it either comes to the astral or physical planes, depending upon the type of evocation you are performing. The calling of the entity is performed on the mental plane because all magic begins in the mind. Points just brought up. You will probably find the answer to several questions you had regarding the practice of magic. The banishing rituals given earlier teach one how to raise and control psychic energy, which can be used to empower a thought form. If one were to simply visualize his or her goal, empower it, and release it, it would manifest on the mental plane, astral plane, and eventually the physical plane. This is the basis for all magical workings, regardless of type. As we shall soon see, this simple form of magic can also become destructive to a ritual's success if there are doubts of a ritual's outcome present in a magician's mind. In a magical evocation, your calling of the entity is done on the mental plane. After it hears you, it either comes to the astral or physical planes, depending upon the type of evocation you are performing. The calling of the entity is performed on the mental plane because all magic begins in the mind. Questions you had regarding the practice of magic. The banishing rituals given earlier teach one how to raise and control psychic energy, which can be used to empower a thought form. If one were to simply visualize his or her goal, empower it, and release it, it would manifest on the mental plane, astral plane, and eventually the physical plane. This is the basis for all magical workings, regardless of type. As we shall soon see, this simple form of magic can also become destructive to a ritual's success if there are doubts of a ritual's outcome present in a magician's mind. In a magical evocation, your calling of the entity is done on the mental plane. After it hears you, it either comes to the astral or physical planes, depending upon the type of evocation you are performing. The calling of the entity is performed on the mental plane because all magic begins in the mind, is powered by the will, and causes change. Why do evocations work? Why do entities feel compelled to come to the magician when called? To answer this question, I want to refer to something I mentioned at the beginning of the book. When a magician stands in the center of the circle, he or she is able to invoke the power of divine providence. In the opening by Watchtower, a vortex of power descends upon the magician, which the magician can use to empower the ritual he or she is performing. Since this power comes from God, who is invoked in the Watchtower ritual, the magician can in effect command holy energy, granting him or her divine authority. Knowledge. The magician has to have a very good idea of the nature of the entity he or she is calling and the plane it comes from. When these facts are known, the magician is able to direct his or her granted divine authority toward commanding a specific being. Speaking to an entity with this type of authority will only work if the magi Kian believes in the power he or she is channeling. Actually, you have to do more than just believe in it. You have to become it. A magician performing an evocation has to radiate authority. The voice used has to be confident and steady, and even posture has to be carefully controlled. You can't call an entity to the physical plane with a soft, insecure voice, and with your head hunched forward. You have to stand up straight and let your command be heard throughout the farthest reaches of all the planes in the universe, of course. I don't mean you should scream at the top of your lungs, as this may slightly upset your neighbors, particularly at night, when performing evocations to the astral plane. However, the type of voice used is different. See Chapter 7. To ensure the process of screaming isn't disrupted, know that the entity hears you and that it has to appear. Believing the entity will manifest is important. Confidence in your abilities ensures success, because you can devote all your energy to the ritual. By doubting the evocation will work, you are accomplishing little more than destructive magic. Consider the following example. You have reached the peak of your ritual. The power in the room is so intense that you feel your body pulsing with it. With your magic wand in your right hand, you prepare to call out to the entity. All of a sudden, however, instead of pronouncing the call, you think to yourself, is this really going to work? Remember what I said earlier about magic beginning in the mind? This thought, pronounced at the absolute worst time in the ritual, can use up a good amount of your raised energy to create a thought form named, is this really going to work? This thought form will then circle you as the evocation proceeds, causing your doubts to grow. Its presence will be felt as you keep thinking about the possibility of your ritual's failure. Soon, you will not even be paying attention to what you are really trying to accomplish. The thought form created in the above example is only one of the reasons why an evocation can fail if you doubt it will succeed. The authority granted to you when you perform an evocation makes it appear to the entity that God is calling it. If you doubt an evocation will work, then you are not letting this divine power flow through you properly. You have to become an almost mythic being to perform an evocation, because you are attempting to control what most people would consider mythic forces. Accepting the ability to act with divine influence is not easy for most people. It requires a delicate balance. Summoning spirits 11. Mind, the desire that the called entity will appear, and the desire that it will accomplish the task which the magician will assign. 3. To do. The ritual has to be performed correctly for the desired effect to be achieved. A magician has to do more than go through the motions and pronounce the words of a rite. He or she also has to be able to supply the necessary power and perform the necessary mental workings such as visualizations and affirmations. 4. To be silent. While few people actually practice this, keeping silent about what type of magical work you are doing is crucial to a successful outcome. By telling everyone that you just did a ritual, so Ria-san, you are allowing them to build up unconscious thought forms that could be destructive to your ritual's success. It is best to not only keep quiet about what type of magic you are performing, but also about the fact you are performing magic at all. These 4 principles must be followed closely if you wish to succeed in magic. It is not enough to know that magic is the science of causing change through the use of will. You also have to realize that magic, like every other science, follows some kind of system. If you spend some time meditating on the 4 points just brought up, you will probably find the answer to several questions you had regarding the practice of magic. The banishing rituals given earlier teach one how to raise and control psychic energy, which can be used to empower a thought form. If one were to simply visualize his or her goal, empower it, and release it, it would manifest on the mental plane, astral plane, and eventually the physical plane. This is the basis for all magical workings, regardless of type. As we shall soon see, this simple form of magic can also become destructive to a ritual's success if there are doubts of a ritual's outcome present in a magician's mind. In a magical evocation, your calling of the entity is. If you think back to the beginning of the book, you will remember the differences between armchair theorists and practicing magicians. An armchair theorist is a person who reads a lot of books and does nothing with the knowledge he or she acquires. A practicing magician, on the other hand, is an applied scientist, similar to an engineer, who uses known principles to accomplish practical goals. The goal of this book is to help you become one of the latter. After all, learning how magic works and using it to perform evocations will enable you to create wonderful changes in your life. Therefore, to make sure you are ready to move on to the actual techniques of this magical science, this chapter will teach you the occult principles at work in magical evocations. This includes explanations of how conjurations work, how sigils help magicians contact entities, and why these beings can be commanded when evoked. The theories given in this chapter provide a solid base of knowledge that can be applied to the evocation techniques given later. Magic. Magic is the most powerful science in the world. When its principles are applied successfully, this science enables a magician to make changes in the universe in accordance to his or her will. But unlike other sciences, magic can affect other planes of existence, as well as the farthest reaches of the physical universe. This multi-planar facet of magic must be understood before one can hope to be effective at working rituals. For this reason, what follows is a look at the nature of the three planes, followed by a discussion on how magical rituals work. As I've already mentioned, there are three planes on which magic works in the universe. They are the physical, astral, and mental planes. As humans, we are the only beings on Earth who inhabit all three of these planes of existence simultaneously, and three bodies are physical bodies, souls, and spirits. This is possible because the planes are not separated like rungs on a ladder. Instead, they coexist all around us. Visiting one of the planes, therefore, does not require traveling, but rather entering the right subtle body within our physical body to experience the plane it occupies. The physical plane is where our material bodies reside. Whatever can be experienced by our physical senses directly, or through some type of scientific detection device, also resides on this plane. There is no need to go into detail to describe this plane, as it is simply the material world of which everyone is aware since birth. Both time and space bind the physical plane in the magical universe, making it possible to measure both accurately on this plane. 08 Magical Theory Y. The astral plane is where our astral bodies or souls reside. To experience the astral plane fully and directly, the astral senses must be developed or trained, as taught in Chapter 2, sometimes called the formative plane. The astral plane is where ideas begin to take form. Magic performed on this plane has the powerful advantage of being brought one step closer to materialization, as any form built on the astral will eventually appear in some way on the physical plane. Since all three planes, with either your pointer finger or a wand, 1. Perform the LBRP, making sure to finish the ritual with the Kabbalistic cross. 2. Extend your arms to form a cross and say, INR 1. Then say, Yod Nun Resh Yod, Yod Nun Resh Yod. Trace each of these Hebrew letters in the air, from right to left, as they are pronounced. See Figure 3.2. Visualize them glowing in the same blue light as the pentagrams in the LBRP. 3. Extend your arms into a cross once more and say, the sign of Osiris slain. 4. Keep your left arm extended and raise your right arm straight up so it is pointing to the ceiling. Your fingers should be together and extended and your palms should face forward. It should look as if your arms are forming the letter L. Look over your left shoulder and say, L, the sign of the morning of Isis. 5. Raise both of your arms, palms forward, to form the letter V. The angle between them should be about 60 degrees. Tilt your head back and say, V, the sign of Typhon and Apophis. 6. Cross your arms on your chest to form the letter X, with your palms facing you. Bow your head and say, X, the sign of Osiris risen. 7. Now form each letter with your arms as it is pronounced. 1. VX. Then extend your arms to form the Osiris slain position. Cross, and say, LVX. Luke 8. Keep your arms extended and say, the light. After a moment, fold your arms on your chest, form an X again, and continue. Of the cross. 9. Now extend your arms to form a cross again, and, as you say the following oration, slowly start to raise them up to the V position, while gradually tilting your head back. Virgo, Isis, Mighty Mother, Scorpio, Apophis, Destroyer, Soul, Osiris, Slain, and Risen, Isis, Apophis, Osiris. Then strongly vibrate IAOEEIO. Your head should be tilted back completely by now and your arms should be in the shape of a V. Become aware of a glowing white brilliance above you and say, let the divine light descend. 10. Slowly lower your arms to form an X on your chest again, and, as you do so, feel the divine light descending through your body. Let it energize you for a few moments. 11. Walk to the east of your circle and trace the banishing hexagram of fire in a flaming gold light with your finger or wand, over your still shining blue pentagram. Figure 3.3 illustrates the 4 hexagrams in this ritual. Note, the hexagrams are not attributed to the placement of the elements in the 4 quarters, but rather to the zodiacal placement of each element. Therefore, for this ritual, fire is in the east, earth is in the south, air is in the west, and water is in the north. Then charge your hexagram the same way you charged the pentagrams in the LBRP, this time vibrating Irarita, Arari to 12. Walk to the south of your circle, tracing a white line in the air like in the LBRP. Trace the banishing hexagram of earth with your finger or wand and charge this hexagram, vibrating Irarita, Arari to 13. Walk to the west of your circle, tracing the line of white. Trace the banishing hexagram of air, and charge it as before, vibrating Irarita, Arati to The Lesser Banishing Ritual of the Hexagram, BRH. The Lesser Banishing Ritual of the Hexagram can be performed with either your pointer finger or a wand. 1. Perform the LBRP, making sure to finish the ritual with the Kabbalistic cross. 2. Extend your arms to form a cross and say, INR 1. Then say, Yod Nun Resh Yod, Yod Nun Resh Yod. Trace each of these Hebrew letters in the air, from right to left, as they are pronounced. See Figure 3.2. Visualize them glowing in the same blue light as the pentagrams in the LBRP. 3. Extend your arms into a cross once more and say, the sign of Osiris slain. 4. Keep your left arm extended and raise your right arm straight up so it is pointing to the ceiling. Your fingers should be together and extended and your palms should face forward. It should look as if your arms are forming the letter L. Look over your left shoulder and say, L, the sign of the morning of Isis. 5. Raise both of your arms, palms forward, to form the letter V. The angle between them should be about 60 degrees. Tilt your head back and say, V, the sign of Typhon and Apophis. 6. Cross your arms on your chest to form the letter X, with your palms facing you. Bow your head and say, X, the sign of Osiris risen. 7. Now form each letter with your arms as it is pronounced. 1. VX. Then extend your arms to form the Osiris slain position. Cross, and say, LVX. Luke 8. Keep your arms extended and say, the light. After a moment, fold your arms on your chest, form an X again, and continue. Of the cross. 9. Now extend your arms to form a cross again and, as you say the following oration, slowly start to raise them up to the V position, while gradually tilting your head back. Virgo, Isis, Mighty Mother, Scorpio, Apophis, Destroyer, Soul, Osiris, Slain, and Risen, Isis, Apophis, Osiris. Then strongly vibrate IAOEEIO. Your head should be tilted back completely by now and your arms should be in the shape of a V. Become aware of a glowing white brilliance above you and say, let the divine light descend. 10. Slowly lower your arms to form an X on your chest again and, as you do so, feel the divine light descending through your body. Let it energize you for a few moments. 11. Walk to the east of your circle and trace the banishing hexagram of fire in a flaming gold light with your finger or wand, over your still shining blue pentagram. Figure 3.3 illustrates the 4 hexagrams in this ritual. Note, the hexagrams are not attributed to the placement of the elements in the 4 quarters, but rather to the zodiacal placement of each element. Therefore, for this ritual, fire is in the east, earth is in the south, air is in the west, and water is in the north. Then charge your hexagram the same way you charged the pentagrams in the LBRP, this time vibrating Irarita, Arari to 12. Walk to the south of your circle, tracing a white line in the air like in the LBRP. Trace the banishing hexagram of earth with your finger or wand and charge this hexagram, vibrating Irarita, Arari to 13. Walk to the west of your circle, tracing the line of white. Trace the banishing hexagram of air, and charge it as before, vibrating Irarita, Arati to. Walk to the north of your circle, still tracing the line of white in the air. Trace the banishing hexagram of water, and charge it, once again vibrating Irarita, Arari to 15. Complete your circle by carrying the light to the east again. Around you should be your 4 pentagrams and 4 hexagrams, with the latter superimposed over the former, blazing in their respective colors of blue and gold at the 4 quarters of your circle. Contemplate their presence. 16. To close this rite, you can either repeat the analysis of the keyword steps 110 or perform the Kabbalistic cross again. If you are about to perform some type of magic, I recommend you do the analysis again, as the divine light can aid you in your working. In this ritual, instead of vibrating 4 different names of power to charge the hexagrams, one word, Irarita, was used. This is an abbreviation for the Hebrew phrase, one is his beginning, one is his individuality, his permutation is one. The importance of the above 2 rituals cannot be overstressed. To practice evocations, or any other type of ceremonial magic, you have to come into contact with pure and divine energies. The banishing rituals consecrate your work area and make it a holy place where these energies can descend upon you. These rituals also have to be performed after your magical work is done, to make sure any forces that were invoked or evoked are effectively banished. I also mentioned earlier all of the reasons why you should practice these rituals daily. The opening by Watchtower was designed by a Golden Dawn initiate named Israel Regardi as an alternative to the supreme invoking ritual of the pentagram used by the order. It contains verses from various mystical sources, including the oracles of Zoroaster and the Enochian keys, and is probably the most inspirational ritual opening used in the modern era. Summoning. To be truly effective, this ritual should be performed with consecrated magical implements. This includes the 4 elemental weapons and tablets, the Tablet of Union, and the dagger and wand used in the LBRP and BRH. Chapter 4 contains instructions for constructing these tools and Chapter 5 shows you how to consecrate them for use. In the meantime, you should begin practicing this ritual anyway, using much simpler representations of the tools. A feather can be used for air, a candle or match for fire, a cup of water for water, and a wooden bowl of salt for earth. Temporary elemental tablets can also be constructed. A yellow sheet of construction paper in the east will serve as an air tablet, as will a red one in the south for fire, a blue one in the west for water, and a black one in the north for earth. The Tablet of Union, see Chapter 4, can be drawn on a white piece of paper. This ritual is written as if you are using the correct tools or implements. For now, feel free to substitute the above-mentioned implements. Unlike the banishing rituals, this rite does not have to be practiced on a daily basis. However, try to become familiar with it, as you will be performing it before every evocation. I suggest you write it out on index cards and read from them until you memorize the ritual. Don't worry about trying to learn this ritual. It is really a lot easier to commit to memory than it seems to be at first glance. 1. Prepare an altar in the center of the room. Position the magical tools on the altar so each is closest to the elemental quarter it represents. The air dagger should be placed on the east side of the altar, the fire wand on the south, the water cup on the west, and the earth pentacle on the north. In the altar center, place the Tablet of Union. Also, make sure the elemental tablets are positioned on the correct walls or on stands in the correct quarters. Have your dagger for the LBRP and your wand for the BRH on the southwest and northwest corners of the altar, respectively. Stand behind the altar, facing east. 2. Pick up the dagger used for the LBRP with your right hand and knock on the altar 3 times using its handle. Then walk to the northeast of your circle, moving clockwise, and say loudly with meaning, Hekas, Hekas est bibeloi, Hekas, Hekas est bibeloi. This commands all unwanted entities to leave the area because a ritual is about to begin. 3. Moving clockwise, return to your place behind the altar, facing east. Perform the LBRP and the BRH, making sure to finish with the analysis of the keyword. Note, when moving around the altar to pick up the magical tools in the following steps, or when pivoting to face the direction of that tool, always move clockwise. Four. Move clockwise to the south of the altar and pick up the fire wand. Pivot and face the elemental tablet of fire in the south. Wave your wand 3 times in the air, in front of the tablet, and then raise it. Walk clockwise around the room, keeping the wand raised, while you say, and when, after all the phantoms are banished, thou shalt see that holy and formless fire, that fire which darts and flashes through the hidden depths of the universe. Hear thou the voice of fire. 5. When you come back to the south, face the tablet and wave the wand in front of it again 3 times. Then use the tool to trace a large, blue invoking pentagram of fire in the air before the tablet. See figure 3.4 for the pentagrams used in this ritual. While doing so, vibrate oiptea pedos, oe peta pedoke. Then trace the figure of Leo in the center of this pentagram in red. Point to the center of it with the wand and vibrate Elohim, Elohim. Lift the wand and say, in the names and letters of the great southern quadrangle, I invoke ye, ye angels of the watchtower of the south. Put the wand back on the altar. 6. Move clockwise to the west of the altar and pick up the water cup. Face the elemental tablet of water and wave the cup before it 3 times. Lift the cup above your head, and walk clockwise around the circle saying, So therefore first, the priest who governeth the works of fire must sprinkle with the lustral water of the loud resounding C7. When you return to the west, wave the cup 3 times in front of the tablet. Trace a large, blue invoking pentagram of water using the tool, while vibrating. MPHRCEL GAIOL, EHMPHARCEL GAIOL. Then trace the blue eagle head in the center. Point at the center of this pentagram with the cup and vibrate Aleph Lame Dalief Lamed Al. Hold the cup above your head and say, in the names and letters of the Great Western Quadrangle, I invoke ye angels of the watchtower of the west. Put the cup on the altar 8. Move to the east of your altar. Pick up the air dagger, and pivot to face the air tablet. Wave the dagger before it 3 times, and lift it above your head. Walk clockwise around the room with the dagger in the air while you say, Such a fire existeth, extending through off air, or a vein of fire formless, whence cometh the image of a voice, or even a flashing light, abounding, revolving, whirling forth, crying aloud 9. When you arrive back at the east, wave the weapon in front of the tablet 3 more times. Trace a large, blue invoking pentagram of water using the dagger while vibrating Oro Iba Aozpi, Oro Baha Aozod P. Then trace a yellow Aquarius sign in the center. Point at the center of the pentagram with the dagger and vibrate Yod Hev Avher, Yod Hev Avher. Hold the dagger high and say, in the names and letters of the Great Eastern Quadrangle, I invoke ye angels of the watchtower of the east. Replace the dagger on the altar 10. Move clockwise to the north of the altar and pick up the earth pentacle. Face the tablet of earth and wave the pentacle before it 3 times. Then walk clockwise around the circle with the pentacle high in the air while saying, Stoop not down into the darkly splendid world, wherein continually leath the faithless depth and Hades wrapped in gloom, delighting in unintelligible images, precipitous, winding, a black ever-rolling abyss, ever espousing a body unluminous, formless, and void. 11. When you return to the north, wave the pentacle in front of the tablet 3 more times, then trace a large, blue invoking pentagram of earth using the pentacle, while vibrating Emordial Hectiga, Emordial Hectiga. In the center, trace a white Torah sign. Point at the center of the pentagram with the pentacle and vibrate Adonai Adonai. Then hold the pentacle above your head and say, in the names and letters of the Great Northern Quadrangle, I invoke ye angels of the watchtower of the north. Return the pentacle to the altar 12. Move clockwise to the west side of your altar and face east. Over the altar and tablet of union, make the following sign of the rending of the veil. Step forward with your left foot and, at the same time, thrust your arms, palms together, forward. Then separate your arms as if you were separating 2 curtains. 13. Say the following in Enochian, vibrating the words in capital letters. Al Sanaf Vorsaji Gaho Ayata Balta, Elixarpek Amananu Tabidum, Zadakara Ekazadakar Adzadamaranu Adu Kikal Qa Pip Pimol Advaoan, O El Sanuf Veo Ersad Zigo Haia Balta, Elixarpe He Komananu Tabita Ehm. Zadakara Ekazadakareo Dazadamaranu Odaki Kleka Apia Papiamailo Deveo Anu. This translates to, I reign over you, says the God of justice. 3 magical names. Move, therefore, move and appear. Open the mysteries of creation, balance, righteousness, and truth. 14. Say the following, I invoke ye angels of the celestial spheres, whose dwelling is in the invisible. Ye are the guardians of the gates of the universe. Be ye also the guardians of this mystic sphere. Keep for removed the evil and the unbalanced. Strengthen and inspire me so that I may preserve unsullied this abode of the mysteries of the eternal gods. Let my sphere be pure and holy so that I may enter in and become a partaker of the secrets of the light divine. 11. Move clockwise to the northeast corner of your circle and face that direction. Say the following: the visible sun is the dispenser of light to the earth. Let me therefore form a vortex in this chamber that the invisible sun of the Spirit may shine therein from above. 16. Walk clockwise around your circle 3 times. Each time you pass the east, make the sign of the Enterer. CLBRP. Step 7. In the direction you are moving. This is how you form the vortex mentioned in the last step. After the 3rd time you pass the east and make the sign of the Enterer, return to the west of your altar and face east. You should feel the vortex of energy in your circle. 17. Make the sign of the Enterer and say, Holy art thou, Lord of the universe. Make the sign of the Enterer again and say, Holy art thou, whom nature hath not formed. Make the sign of the Enterer one more time and say, Holy art thou, the vast and mighty one, Lord of the light and of the darkness. Now give the sign of silence. CLBRP. Step 7. 18. After you perform whatever magical work you want to accomplish and are ready to end the ceremony, say the following: Unto thee, soul wise, soul eternal, and soul merciful one, be the praise and glory forever, who has permitted me who standeth humbly before thee to enter into this far into the sanctuary of the mysteries. Not unto me but unto thy name be the glory. Let the influence of thy divine ones descend upon my head, and teach me the value of self-sacrifice so that I shrink not in the hour of my trial, but that thus my name may be written on high and my genius stand in the presence of the Holy Ones. 19. Now walk around the circle 3 times, counterclockwise. Give the sign of the Enterer as you pass the east, in the direction you are walking. The vortex of energy you created earlier should now begin to fade away. 20. Perform the LBRP and the BRH. 21. Say the following, making sure to vibrate the words in capital letters. I now release any spirits that may have been imprisoned by this ceremony. Depart in peace to your abodes and habitations, and go with the blessings of Yeshua Yehovashah. Yeshua Yehovashah. 22. Knock 3 times on the altar with the handle of the dagger you used to perform the LBRP and say, I now declare this temple duly closed. Steps 19 to 22 of this ritual are known collectively as the closing by watchtower. It should be clear by now, after reading the various orations, the types of links that are created with divine when this ritual is performed. Chapter 4 deals with the construction of all of the magical implements you will need to perform evocations. The period of time you spend training your magical senses and learning the rituals in this chapter is ideal for creating your magical tools this way. Ya Wilburad. YTOPERFORMEVOCATIONSBOTH.
To him. He didn't have to do it. He was under no compulsion. So he did it out of what Dionysius the Areopagite calls hyperpleres, or we would anglicize it, hyperpleres, superfullness. In other words, for kicks. I mean, you know, we don't like using that language, but it's completely contemporary and exactly right. That's what the Bible says. Only it puts it in a more sedate way. It says, His Majesty did it for his pleasure. No, that's the way you talk about somebody who's the king. Queen Victoria said, you know, we are not amused. And it says in the book of the Proverbs that where the divine wisdom speaks, and the trouble with that has always been images idol. And all idols must be destroyed respectfully. See, good heavens! What was I making all that fuss about? Because here we are. It's what we've been looking for all the time. It's right here. And that's the thing. And you realize that you basically, through and through, are all this. Only you got into a kind of a funny illusion. I think that we get into that illusion in rather a complicated way through our upbringing as children. because many little children know from the beginning what it's all about. Only they haven't got words to put it in. See, that's the whole problem with child psychology. What child psychologist is ideally looking for is an articulate baby. I can explain what it's like to be a baby. You know? You never get there. But by the time you by teaching the child to speak, you mess it up. You give it this language, and you can't think big thoughts like that with this funny, limited language, especially with the words they start children out with. And then finally, when they've got the poor thing completely hypnotized, they tell it the most preposterous things. They tell it that it must be free. They say to you, you, child, are an independent agent, and you're responsible, see? Now, therefore, we command you to love us. And in other words, we require that you do something which will please us only if you do it voluntarily. Now, do you wonder people are mixed up? So, but I'm afraid, you see, that the new theology isn't onto this. The new theology really is serious about there not being any God, and that the universe is therefore a rather pitiful predicament in which we're caught, has some compensations. But what all this is a continuation of the 19th century philosophy, the fully automatic model, which is that this is an essentially stupid universe. It's a mechanism. It is a gyration of blind energy in which human intelligence and values happens to be a fluke, and a rather uncomfortable one, because nature doesn't give a damn about us. And so we have to fight it. And now all that is pure mythology. It is grossly unscientific. But most people believe it. It's common sense for today. But what an opportunity, though, there is in the new theology, and in this whole ferment going on, to get them to see this other point of view and realize that when you get rid of God, all you are doing is you're destroying an idol. And all idols must be destroyed respectfully. Not like those wretched Puritans who went around destroying all the saints' figures and the stained glass in the medieval churches. That was disrespectful iconoclasm. Respectful iconoclasm would be, for example, every Easter Sunday the Bible should be ceremoniously burned. Because if Jesus is truly risen from the dead, you don't need the Bible anymore. He's around. Available. You don't need the books. You burn it up ceremoniously with great respect. Because certainly God doesn't take himself seriously. If he did, I shudder to think what would happen. And you realize that you burn it up ceremoniously with great respect. Because certainly from our point of view. And realize that when you get rid of God, all you are doing is you're destroying an idol. And all idols must be destroyed respectfully. Not like those wretched Puritans who went around destroying all the saints' figures and the stained glass in the medieval churches. That was disrespectful iconoclasm. Respectful iconoclasm would be, for example, every Easter Sunday the Bible should be ceremoniously burned. Because if Jesus is truly risen from the dead, you don't need the Bible anymore. He's around. Available. You don't need the books. You burn it up ceremoniously with great respect. because certainly God doesn't take himself seriously. If he did, I shudder to think what would happen. I want to start by giving what may be to many of you a new definition of the word myth. As normally used, the word myth means an idle tale, a fable, a falsehood, or an idea that's out of date, something untrue. But there is another, older and stricter use of the word myth, whereby it doesn't mean something untrue, but it means an image in terms of which people make sense of life and of the world. Supposing, for example, you don't understand the technicalities of electricity, and somebody wants to explain them to you. He wants to explain about the flow of currents. Well, to do that, he compares electricity with water. And because you understand water, you get some idea about the behavior of electricity. Or if an astronomer wants to explain to you what he means by expanding space, he'll use the metaphor of a balloon, a black balloon with white spots on it. The white spots represent the galaxies. And then if you blow up the balloon, they all get further away from each other at the same speed as the balloon blows up. In neither case are we saying that electricity is water or that the universe is a balloon with white spots on it. We are saying it's something like it. And so in the same way, the human being has always used images to represent his deepest ideas of how the universe works and what man's place in it is. And tonight I'm going to discuss certain aspects of two of the greatest myths in this sense of the word which have influenced mankind's thinking. First of all, the myth of the universe as an artifact, as something made, as a carpenter makes tables, chairs, and houses, or as a potter makes pots, or as a sculptor makes figurines. And on the other hand, the image of the world as a drama, in which all the things in the world are not made but acted in the same way as a player acts parts. For these are the two great images which govern respectively the religions of the West, descending from Hebraism, that is to say, Hebraism itself, Christianity, and Islam, and on the other hand, the myth which governs those religions which have had their origin in India, most particularly Hinduism itself, and to a lesser extent Buddhism. And I want to make it perfectly plain before I go any further that in talking about these two great religious traditions, in terms of images, I am talking about the way they express themselves at a rather popular level. Sophisticated Christians and sophisticated Hindus think beyond images. For example, a Christian may think of God as the Father, but a sophisticated and educated Christian does not imagine that God is a cosmic male parent with a white beard sitting on a golden throne above the stars. Nor does a Hindu imagine literally that God is the super showman, the big actor. These images are what it is like, not what it is. And perhaps when I get through with discussing them, we'll be able to ask the question as to whether any of these images still make sense to us in this 20th century when we have a view of the world so powerfully shaped by Western science. Now let me begin then with a few things about the image of the world, and thus the image of man, as it comes to us from the Hebrew Bible. It's said in the book of Genesis that the Lord God created man out of the dust of the earth. as if he had made of Adam a clay figurine. And then he blew the breath of life into its nostrils, and the figurine became alive. And it said that the figurine was made in the image of God. For God, who is conceived in this particular image as personal, as a living, intelligent spirit, creates in man something like that. But you must note very definitely that this is a creation, as the potter makes a pot out of clay. For the creature that the Lord God has made is not God. The creature is something less than God, something like God but not God. And you will see some very interesting consequences follow from this idea of the world as an artifact. What follows from it is that the whole universe is seen as a marvelous technical accomplishment. And if it is made, there must be an explanation of how it is made. And the whole history of Western thought has in many ways been an attempt to discover how the Creator did it. What were the principles? What were the laws laid down? What, in other words, was the blueprint that underlies this creation? And this image has therefore persisted throughout Western history and continues on into a time when very many people do not believe in Christianity or Judaism or Islam. They are, you might say, agnostics or atheists, but they still carry on something of this idea of the world as an artifact. If you are a Christian or a Jew, you believe that the world is the artifact, the creation of the intelligent spirit called God. But if in this culture you are an atheist or an agnostic, you believe that the world is an automatic machine without a creator, something which made itself. We might say then that our original model of the universe was the ceramic model. And the Bible is full of references to God as the potter, who makes the world out of obedient clay. But when Western thinkers in the 18th century began to drop the idea of a personal God, they kept the idea of the artifact. And so we could say that after the ceramic model of the universe, we got the fully automatic model. And still, you see, underlying our way of thinking about things is the question, how are they put together? And if you want to find out, one of the obvious ways to proceed is to take them to pieces. Everybody knows that if you want to find out how something is made, you unscrew the parts and see what the secret is inside the box. And so Western science in its beginnings took everything apart. It took animals apart. It took flowers apart. It took rocks apart. And then when they got it reduced to its tiniest pieces, they tried to find methods of taking those apart too, so that we could eventually discover what the very smallest small things were, and so know what building blocks the Creator, or the fully automatic model, used in order to put it all together, hoping that that would lead us to an understanding of how life works. Man himself in all this was looked upon as a creation, something made. Only there were some difficulties about this, because if you believe in the world in accordance with the idea of the fully automatic model, you've really got to admit that man too is fully automatic. In other words, he's a machine rather than a person. Man is something, in other words, that says, doffs its hat to you and says, how do you do? I'm a person, I'm alive, I'm sensible, I talk, I have feelings. But you wonder, do you really? Or are you just an automaton? Am I real, or am I just an automaton? The general result of the Western image of man hasn't been quite that. What it's come down to under the dispensation of the fully automatic model is this. We are living beings, we're very sensitive, and inside the human skin, by an extraordinary fluke of nature, there has arisen something called reason. And there have also arisen values, such as love. But this was a fluke, because it happened inside a fully automatic universe, which is stupid, because it's merely automatic. You won't, in other words, find anything really intelligent outside human skins. And therefore, if that is so, the only thing that people can do, if they want to maintain reason and love in this universe, is to fight nature and beat the stupid external world into submission to the human will. And so the war against nature is the great project thus far of Western technology. Because you see, each one of us, because we have inherit from thousands of years of history a view of man as something made, and almost of a sort of breath breathed into a pot of clay, or an image of clay, a kind of, each one feels himself as a globule of consciousness or mind, living inside a vehicle called my body. And since the world outside that body is stupid, we feel estranged from the world. When we find out how enormous the universe is, that makes us as individuals feel extremely unimportant and rather lonely. Because you see, we consider ourselves, our basic image of ourselves, is of a soul or an ego or a mind, all by itself in its little house, looking out at a world that is strange and that is not me. I am therefore a brief interval of consciousness between the darkness and the darkness. And that isn't too happy. I would like to be able to believe that it was more than that. If I could, so many of us say, if I could only still believe that there is an intelligent and eternal God in whose eyes I am important and who has the power to enable me to live forever, that would be very nice. But for many people, that's an extraordinarily difficult thing to believe. Now I want to contrast this image of the world with another, what I call the dramatic image as distinct from the image of the potter, or the ceramic image. And this will be the presiding image of Hinduism. Their idea is this, that God didn't make the world like a technologist, but he acted it. That is to say, every person and everything for that matter, every tree, every flower, every animal, every star, every rock, every grain of dust is a role or part which the Godhead is playing. You must understand, of course, that the Hindu image of God is a little bit different from the Jewish, the Christian, and the Islamic. When I was a little boy, I used to ask my mother interminable questions. And when she got sick of it, she said, "My dear, there are some things in this life that we're just not meant to know." Well, I said, "Will we ever know?" She said, "Yes. If you die and then go to heaven, God will explain it all." And so I used to hope that on wet afternoons in heaven, we would all be able to sit round the throne of grace and say to the Lord, "Why did you do this and why did you do that?" And he would explain. Every child in the West asks his mother, how was I made? And nobody knows, but they know that perhaps somebody does, and that'll be God, and he'll be able to explain. Likewise, if anybody gets mentally deranged and claims to be God, we always humor such people by asking them technical questions. How did you make the world in 6 days? Or if you're God, why couldn't you change this plate into a rabbit? But that is because in our popular image of God, God is the supreme technocrat. He knows all the answers. He understands everything in detail and could tell you all about it. But the Hindus don't think of God that way. If you ask the Hindu God, how did you create the human body? He would say, look, I know how I did it, but it can't be explained in words, because words are too clumsy. In words, I have to talk about things slowly. I have to string them out, because words run in a line. And lines add up to books, and books add up to libraries. And if I explained to you how I made the human organism, it would take all eternity for me to tell you. Unfortunately for me, I don't have to understand things in words in order to make them happen. Nor do you. You don't have to understand in words how you breathe. You just breathe. You don't have to understand in words how to grow your hair, how to shape your bones, how to make your eyes blue or brown. You just do it. And somebody who does understand to some extent, maybe a physiologist, he can't do it any better than you can. So that, you see, is the Hindu idea of divine omnipotence. And that is why their images of the gods very often have many arms. You'll often see the god Shiva with 10 arms, or the Buddhist Avalokiteshvara with 1,000 arms. And that is because their image of the divine is a sort of centipede. A centipede can move 100 legs without having to think about it. So Shiva can move 10 arms very dexterously without having to think about it. And you know what happened to the centipede when it stopped to think how to move 100 legs. It got all balled up. So in this way, the Hindus do not think of God as being a technician in the sense of having a verbal or mathematical understanding of how the world is created. It's done in a simpler way, just like that. Only if we had to describe this simple way in words, it would be very complicated, but God, in their idea, doesn't need to do so. But the remarkable difference is that the Hindu doesn't see any fundamental division between God and the world. The world is God at play. The world is God acting. Now, how could you possibly arrive at such an idea? Very simply, when he tries to think why there is a world at all, because if you think about it, it is extraordinarily odd that there is anything. It would have been much simpler and required a great deal less energy for there to have been nothing. But here it is. And why? Well, what would you do if you were God? Or let me put it in a simpler way. Supposing that every night you could dream any dream you wanted to dream, what would you do? Well, first of all, I'm quite sure that most of us would dream all the marvelous things we wanted to happen. We would fulfill all our wishes. And we might go on that way for months. Besides, you could make it extraordinarily rich by wishing to dream 75 years in one night, full of glorious happenings. But after you've done that for a few months, you might begin to get a little tired of it. And you would say, what about an adventure tonight, in which something terribly exciting and rather dangerous is going to happen, but I'll know I'm dreaming, so it won't be too bad. And I'll wake up if it gets too serious. So you do that for a while. You rescue princesses in distress from dragons and all sorts of things. And then when you've done that for some time, you say, now let's go out a bit further. Let's forget it's a dream and have a real thrill. Ooh. But you know you'll wake up. And then after you've done that for a while, you get more and more nerve until you sort of dare yourself as to how far out you can get. And you end up dreaming the sort of life you're living now. Now, why does one do that? Why would one do that? The reason, the Hindu would say, is that the basic pulse of life, the basic motivation of existence, is what we call the game of hide and seek. Now you see it, now you don't. You see, everything's based on that, because all life is vibration, pulsing. Light is a pulsation of light-darkness. Sound is a pulsation of sound-silence. Everything is going at various speeds. And in order to have, say, it's like the motion of a wave. Now, a wave consists of two pulses, the crest and the trough. You can't have crests without troughs. You can't have troughs without crests. They always go together. You can't have hide without seek. You can't have seek without hide. Just for example, you can't have here without there. Because if you didn't know where there was, you wouldn't know where here was. You can't have is without isn't, because you don't know what you mean by is unless you also know what you mean by isn't, and vice versa. So in that way, they think that hide and seek is the fundamental game. As if the Lord, God, the Brahman as they call it, said in the beginning, get lost, man. Disappear, and I'll find you again later. And then when, the disappearance gets very far out, then the contrary rhythm begins, and the dreamer wakes up and finds out, whew, that was a relief. And then after a rest period in which everything is, of course, at peace, it starts all over again, because the spirit of adventure springs eternal. Now then, the Hindus had extremely vast ideas of space and time for their period in history, and they have the theory that the hiding part of the game goes on for 4,320,000 years, a period called a kalpa, K-A-L-P-A in Sanskrit. And then the seek part, that is to say, let me put it this way, the dreaming part is followed by the waking part. The dreaming is the hiding, where the Godhead imagines that it's all of us. Then for another 4,320,000 years, there's a period of awakening. And then at the end of that, again begins the dream. Now the dreaming period is further subdivided into 4 stages. The first stage is the longest, and it's the best. During that stage, the dream is beautiful. The second stage